Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the GTFusiOn 2021 Team World Championship on Gran Turismo Sport. Tonight marks the second half of the season, the commencement of the second half, and it is round number 4 of 6, and we are here at the Belgian circuit of Spa-Francorchamps for what is expected to be a rapid series of battles over the course of the races tonight. I'm in the commentary box. I am Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I'll be bringing you all of your action tonight in the English spoken language on YouTube. You'll be finding this broadcast on my YouTube channel, that is TX141 TX on YouTube. Now, I appreciate your patience. For those of you who originally tuned in before we had to stop the broadcast briefly, it's been clarified that there have been some technical issues with our original lobby host, that is Honey Rebels, who will be racing in Lobby F tonight, or Group F, however you want to say it, and they will be trying to rejoin us shortly. We are expecting at least a 5-minute delay to the proceedings, if not slightly longer. So whilst we've got a little bit of time before we get underway with the racing, let's take you through the schedule and why we're racing here and why we are racing in some rather fast and rapid Porsche 911s, which are running the Porsche 911 Gt3 Rs, specifically the 991 car, which has been tuned with 510 horsepower and 1,263 kilograms. We are here at the Belgian circuit to commemorate what is the 100th anniversary of Spa-Francorchamps, and we invite you to honour the winner of the 2020 Porsche Super Cup round on this circuit, and that is Ayhancan Guoyven, who participated in the GTFusiOn Championship in 2015 with the TRL team. Now, born in 1998 in Istanbul, Ayhancan grew up with the racing background of his father, and he has been on wheels ever since he was 4 years old. On the first steps with race simulations and go-kart, he enjoyed winning different racing categories, and he is currently racing in the Porsche Super Cup, the Porsche Carrera Cup Germany, Porsche Carrera Cup France, and Porsche Mobile 1 Super Cup. He is also a member of the sim racing team VRS Coanda Sim Sport. Now, his achievements are very impressive. Champion of the Porsche Cup France 2018 and 2019, champion Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Benelux, second in the 2020 Porsche Super Cup Championship, and without a doubt you'll hear from him again in the coming years. You'll hear about him winning more championships. Indeed, it is the case that Ayhancan will be adding ever more to his itinerary in terms of those championships he's picked up and those wins he has picked up. And so the car we will be using tonight, that we've elected to use, is the Porsche 911 Gt3 Rs 991 2016 car, which has been used until last year. Since this year, the Porsche 911 Gt3 Rs 992 has started to be used in the Porsche Super Cup. So we are using the closest possible car to align with the car which our wonderful driver Ayhancan Guoyven has driven in the Porsche Super Cup himself. And I believe some of the members of the organiser have actually spoken to him quite recently as well, and he's in a very good health, I can tell you that. Now, he has provided us with the technical data for the car that he uses, and we are riding with that weight of 1,263 kilograms and 510 brake horsepower. So we're trying to get as close as possible to the real world car which our hero is racing in. And with regards to this circuit, of course, located near Francorchamps in the province of Liege, Belgium, each year it hosts the Belgian Formula 1 Grand Prix and the 24 Hours of Spa endurance race, as well as other national and international races. And designed in 1921, just 100 years ago, as we see there, some drivers continue to have technical issues in joining the lobby right now, by Jules Defier and also Henry Langlois van Opem, the original 14.981 kilometre route, and today it is half that roughly. It is 7 kilometres, almost 7.004 kilometres, and has 19 turns, or 20 depending on how you treat certain corners, including the most famous of all, Raidillon del Rouge. We'll be getting underway very shortly. Let's talk a little bit about the schedule then. So the schedule for tonight is as follows. We're running 5 minutes behind. At 20 minutes past the hour, so at 2020 British Summer Time or UTC +1, so in about a minute's time, we'll be getting underway with the opening qualifying session. The opening qualifying session, of course, will be what is 15 minutes long, and the idea behind this is to essentially give our drivers ample time to put in solid qualifying laps with the aim of being the fastest man. And whoever's the fastest qualified, of course, will be lining up on pole. Following that, it will be the case that we proceed to race one straight after. Race number 1 being the sprint race. the first of our 2 sprint races of the night, whereas we take a look at our schedule right now, it'll be a case, it is 4 laps in length, and our drivers will be looking to go. No strategy here, it's just simply all about being the fastest over the course of the 4 laps. We'll then, after that, have a reverse grid race, which is 13 laps long. The reverse grid being based on the finishing order of race number 1. And that will be a 13-lap race, which is a feature race, where there will be the strategic element of potentially needing to take on fuel and also change the tyres. We'll then be taking a 10-minute break. We expect that 10-minute break to be somewhere in the region of what is around what is about 20 past 9, so in an hour's time or so, but perhaps a little bit later now, and then we're getting underway with the second qualifying session 10 minutes after that, so approximately 25 to 10 British Summer Time, and that will be a 6-minute qualifying session to determine who is going to be on pole for race number 3. A shorter qualifying session, which means our drivers are under more pressure to get it right first time. Will then be, as we see more of our drivers making their way around the circuit right now, it will then be a case that after the second qualifying session, we have a second sprint race. That's race number 3, another 4 laps. And then last but not least, race number 4 that follows after it. It'll be another reverse grid lineup based on the results from race number 3, and it will be 13 laps once again. So that is our order of proceedings tonight. We've got the 4 races, 2 qualifying sessions, and we also do have the fact that our starts today will be rolling starts in all of these races, and it will be the case that our safety car will guide our drivers around up towards the GT World style starting line, which is coming out of La Source in the run up towards Eau Rouge and Raidillon, and that is where our drivers will be looking to go racing from. And our drivers have been told there is no overtaking permitted until they have made their way through Eau Rouge and Raidillon. So once they've made their way through the right-hander and start going over the brow of the hill through turn 5, that is when they can start to look to go for overtakes. As we see a number of you already putting in messages in the chat there, in the YouTube chat, and we say hello to you there. We've got Paolo Vanoli saying go Giro, go GTD drivers, and we've also got there Francesco saying, well, I believe that's GG there. As we see a lot of drivers. And speaking of our drivers, let's introduce our drivers, of course. It's only appropriate that we do so as we just check in with our stewards. So I believe at the moment we are waiting just for a couple more drivers to potentially join at the moment for Huddy Rebels to be able to resolve his technical issues, but it's not looking too promising, I must say. But we do currently have 12 drivers right now, and we do see there that we do have Kuba saying that he's sorry he's got a blue screen. So I think we might have some issues with 1 or 2 more here. But all being well, we should have in the region of what is 14 to 15 drivers tonight. And let's take you through the order of them in terms of how they qualified for this lobby, based on the highest ELO or the highest ranking versus the lowest. So we start off then with the CBR driver of Ipsimo 91. As we see him here, the Italian driver right now. Oh, and the lobby has been taken down once again here. So that is, we're going to be getting a slight longer delay to proceedings whilst the lobby is essentially reset and rerun. It might be the case that we're trying to get a lobby set up with Huddy Rebels as the host this time. We will wait and find out for you folks. So we won't go through our drivers just yet because they're not out on circuit. Apologies for this. Just bear with us a little bit more patience. We will get there in the end. Now, whilst we are waiting, of course, just to tell you a little bit more about the car that we'll be racing tonight. So the Porsche 911 GT3 RS 2016, the 991 car. Our drivers will be required to run it with a preset tune. There will be no tuning permitted, and they'll be using the sports hard tyres. Now, they're only allowed that one compound. There's going to be no sports soft or sports medium tyres. And the idea behind this, everybody has an equal car and an equal tyre compound, and it will all be about mastering the car. Much like our hero that this race is in tribute to, has had to master his car and craft over the years. Now, I am just waiting also for clarification in what is the stewards chat right now, which is off screen, as to what specifically is happening to the lobby. I haven't had anything to say that the lobby is being moved to a third host at the moment, so I suspect that it'll be one of our 2 pre-existing hosts. As we are just waiting for the Group F lobby to be reformed. And I believe, yep, that is it. It is Greco reforming the lobby. So this means we will be approximately 10 to 15 minutes behind schedule right now, ladies and gentlemen. But again, a little bit of patience, because once we get underway, the racing is going to be absolutely phenomenal. As we can see, an Audi R18 at 2016 there. That's not the car our drivers will be running tonight. And we'll continue to see some technical issues for Honey Rebels by looks of things here. So it may be the case that we are starting without one of our drivers tonight, which will be very unfortunate. But these technical issues do happen, and that's why additional lobbies are run on the Sunday. And also occasionally, I think there's even been lobbies run on a Monday before, just to try and give everybody the opportunity to take part. As we see Rebels trying to make a second attempt at joining right now, the Honey driver. But as we wait for all of our drivers to ready up here, let's try and go through the order once again here in terms of our fastest driver, our highest ranked drivers that currently stands versus our lowest ranks. So start off with our highest ranked here. Here is our leader in the group, and that is CBR's Ibsamo 91 here. Currently standing on an ELO of 1,246. A very strong driver, looking to go charging around the field once again today. The Italian driver doing rather well over the course of the opening 3 rounds, but of course he will be the favourite to be the best of our drivers here tonight. He does, however, only have a 1 ELO point advantage over GTMX Gt3 Rs, and we are waiting to see the Mexican driver. He's currently not in lobby, as we see the lobby is closed again here, so these technical issues continuing to persist. And hopefully what may happen very shortly is we perhaps get Honey Rebels form the lobby instead. That's what I suspect may happen here, because we do, of course, have those 2 hosts. But whilst we are waiting, let's just show you the car that our drivers will be running tonight. In fact, it was on the screen right there. I should have just left it on the screen. Only that would have been it for a very brief period of time. It's the German-made machine. And here you go, ladies and gentlemen. Here is the car that our drivers will be running tonight, the 911 GT3 RS 2016. As I say, we'll be running it with a customised power and weight of 510 brake horsepower and 1,263 kilograms. Lovely looking car, left-hand drive, and our drivers will be doing their best in this one. With the gear shift there, of course, these cars being a manual. And we look forward to seeing our drivers go racing. But I believe you also do have the flappy pedals there, and our drivers will be using the flappy pedal gearbox tonight, especially designed for the car. And now let's hop back and see if our lobby has been reformed. Okay, lobby has been reformed. We're going to join it now, and it's been reformed by Honey Rebels. So just bear with us very briefly, and I'm grateful to all those of you who are tuning in at the moment and that you're being patient. Of course, this gives you extra time to go grab yourself a beverage or just some popcorn or a snack, so that way you can get ready for the racing. Alrighty, ladies and gents, well, I think this lobby has managed to get everybody on board. So we do have practically all of our drivers here, and it looks as though things have been sorted, which is great news, of course, and it's great news for our drivers because they'll be itching to go racing, and we can see there Greco giving the thumbs up to say, let's go, and good luck to all our drivers. So what we're going to do with regards to introducing our drivers, we will do it as they make their way around in qualifying. So that way we're not constantly transitioning through screens for you, because I feel otherwise it'll be a little bit disorientated. But here is our favourite for tonight, the CBR driver of Ibsamo 91, and we're expecting him to be potentially the fastest driver of the one, or the favourite to do the best here, but you can imagine that he is going to us. He is the favourite. He does have a lot of pressure on his shoulders as he makes his way through Lake Arm and heads around through turn 9 right now and heads down the hill towards turn number 10. But he's racing for Team INCR, the Italian driver, and again on that ELO of 1,246, as we are just seeing the command for Honey Rebels there to get qualifying underway. Lovely cars, of course, making their way around the circuit right now. German machinery, very, very well poised on its rear end. What with it being, of course, mid-engine rear-wheel drive, you could argue, or perhaps even you could argue it's rear-engine rear-wheel drive. But I believe these cars are officially classified as mid-engine rear-wheel drive because the position of the engine is not completely over the rear axle, although it's very close to over the top of the rear axle. So that's why it's considered to be an MR car rather than an RR car. But as he makes his way right now through the campus chicane, it turns 13 and 14, looking very smooth indeed, is Ipsimo as he makes his way through there now, and we can see everybody being given the thumbs up. We wish our drivers, of course, the best luck as well. Good luck to everybody taking part tonight, and of course remember to have fun but also go seriously racing as we get the countdown for qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. The first qualifying session is now about to get underway. 15 minutes. Who's going to be on pole by the end of it? Let's find out. So with everybody then looking to get out of the pits as quickly as possible, we've already introduced our favourite in the lobby, but what about some of our other drivers then? Well, our driver who is in second place in the rankings going into tonight's round in Group F is one GTM Gt3 Rs. Now, the Mexican driver here on an ELO of 1,245, he's one of our leader in the group, and he will be giving it everything he has got. That is certain as he makes his way out up towards Eau Rouge and Radion. Through turns 3, 4 and 5 he goes right now. Now, we do know the GTM drivers are a very strong group of drivers and consistent as well, and we can expect great things from Gt3 tonight. Meanwhile, the number 789 car lines up in what is P3 in our standings, and that's CBR's Mirko DK, and we're just going to look for him out on the circuit right now, as I think he is a little bit further down, or in fact, he may not actually be in the lobby. Perhaps we are missing Mirko right now. I cannot see him for the life of me, but if he was joined tonight, he is on an ELO of 1,245 alongside GTM Gt3 and the INCR driver would be racing from Italy and representing the country. But meanwhile then, fourth we have PRT's Bart 43, and Bart 43, the Polish driver here, making his way down through the run out of what is turn number 10 into X corner at turn number 11 right now. The 717 car there, very fetching livery as well, and he is representing Team PRT, and he is on an ELO of 1,244.72. We then have just after him on 1,244 flat is the GTPL driver of, I believe that is Bax, as we find Bax, and we can see him here making his way through Puol corner right now. Through turn 12, the double left-hand apex here, essentially simplified into one elongated apex, and he makes his way down towards campus chicane here. We expect great things of the KRT driver. We know the KRT drivers are very strong. That's the team he's represented, and we look forward to seeing what he's able to achieve. You then got 1,242.74, so a sizable gap to our next driver. That is the GTD driver who was mentioned in the chat earlier on, and we've got a number of fans supporting him, and that is Gugiro 79 here as he makes his way, Gugiro I should say, 79, as he makes his way into the campus chicane right now, and the Italian driver representing Team GTD. We then got our backup lobby host, who is the Belgian driver of WSR Greco, and we know that the WSO drivers are very strong drivers, as we found out earlier in the season, having the pleasure to race alongside them in person, as well as be able to cast on their previous progress. But he's on 1,241.93 ELO, and we look forward to seeing what the Belgian is able to achieve here today. We then got a further points gap of 3.93 to come all the way down in the yellow ranking to KRT Akuba, who we can see here, the Polish driver getting ready to go onto his hot lap right now, and he is on that midfield ranking here, just a little bit under the average for the group. The 860 driver here representing KRT. We look forward to seeing what the Polishman is able to achieve. You then got RTA's Momo 87 here as he makes about the hill. Lovely livery on that car. That is a beautiful livery on Momo's car. I must admit, my favourite so far of the ones, although I can't play favourites, of course. I must say there's some smashing liveries here. But Momo on 1,237.42 ELO going into this one towards the bottom end of our ELO rankings. But the Belgian driver here will be looking to prove a point, I'm sure, as he makes his way down towards Lacom. He's got a little bit of traffic in the form of CBR's Ibisamo 91, however, and that may cost him a bit of lap time. We've then got our lobby host of Honey Rebels, who we can see here, the French driver making their way up the hill right now through turns 3 through to 5, and as they make their way around on an ELO of 1,236.75, and the French driver representing Team Honey, of course, Honey, a very strong team as well, some very up-and-coming drivers, indeed some established veterans in the series, and we look forward to seeing what Rebels is able to achieve here tonight. We've also got a driver who we have seen a number of times, and that is BR's S2YBKI, or we're going to be referred to him as S2Y from this point onwards. The BR driver who is representing Team BR, an ELO of 1,236.55. And in the previous races, we've seen him a good competitor in the midfield of his respective lobbies, and we look forward to seeing what he's able to do today. We then got some other drivers still to introduce. We have got the Greek driver here of Zambaniro 13, and as he makes his way into campus right now, Zambaniro on 1,235.62 ELO, representing Greece and the team HKRT. HKRT, they've got plenty of very strong drivers, and Zambaniro is one of those strong drivers, making his way through what is Stablo 1 and shortly Stablo 2. You can see that on the side of the car, the HKRT logo. And then you've got the last two drivers in the lobby, starting off with TSA Marco, who we can see the Mexican driver here representing Team TSA as he makes his way through Blonchimon as he goes through the second apex of Blonchimon. Now turn number 18 here, going through. He's got a little bit of traffic in the form of Momo and Ipsimo. And then last but not least, we do have Honey Seidel from France representing Team Honey as well on 1,232.57 ELO. The lowest rated ELO driver here by a sizable margin, but I wonder if Seidel can show some people up here and bring some surprises. But as they come across that timeline to complete their opening qualifying lap here, we can see already times coming in, and they're in the region of the 2-minute 31s and 32s. As we see, it's TSA Marco who's taken provisional pole so far with 2:31.180, but I suspect we've got plenty more times coming around right now. As we do see there, we've got WSR Greco setting a slightly faster lap here, coming up to what is at this point a 2:32.550, putting in a P5. But we've got a lot of drivers as well who seem to be struggling with their opening laps. We've got KRT Kuba there with a 2:32.087, a good lap there by Kuba, and only 9/10 off the fastest lap right now, but quite a spread in those lap times. And I think that would suggest that a lot of our drivers are struggling to get that tyre compound up to temperature. The Sport Hard tyre, a very durable tyre, but one that takes a lot of work to bring up to its optimum running temperature here. But Kuba having not too much difficulty in doing so, as we see a little bit further down. We have got here S2Y making his way right now through Blonchimon here, and we're going to stay with the Polish driver as he flows through. But a lot of variance in the lap times, and we do imagine that this could be a little bit of a trigger point with regards to the fact that some drivers might need a couple more laps in order to get those tyres up to temperature. But of course, if they need those additional laps, they've got those laps in this qualifying session, but not in qualifying 2, as they make their way then through the final chicane, through the bus stop chicane. We're going to jump on board here with the Polish driver and take you through for what will be a lap round the circuit as he sets P2 there, a 2:31.722, and now let's give you the lap tour. So coming down into the first corner there, into La Source, coming all the way down to second gear, balancing it on the throttle on exit, and then stamping hard down on the throttle as he fills the car by it, and now charging through the right-hand kink here of the old pit lane entry, going through turn 2, and now cutting to turns 3, 4, and 5 here as he makes his way into Rouge and Radion. You'll see he's going to cut as far to the left as possible before swinging onto the apex of turn 4, and that's over the crest of the hill he goes here. Very nice run there in the 5th gear, now building up that speed and making his way through turn 6 down the Kemmel Straight, heading up to in excess here of 170 miles an hour potentially in the slipstream in the race, but coming up into the brake zone of what is the start of Les Combes here, breaking down from 166 miles an hour here and coming into turn number 7. You can see sliding the car from right to left here as he's got that gentle chicane before now coming onto the exit of Les Combes through turn 9. And here it's all about getting on the throttle nice and early and riding high up onto the exit curve, which we can see S2Y doing a fantastic job of that before now coming down into turn 10. And here it's all about patience. You want to hug that apex as tight as possible in second gear there, and upshift into third. You could see a quick upshift to third there to be able to get the rear out and get on the power sooner. And as he comes through X corner, a little bit of snap understeer there on entry into X. You could see the car didn't want to flow into the corner, but he managed to get the throttle in to kick the car around. And now coming down through Pawn here, turn 12, where a lap is made or lost typically, as we see there, drivers improving. S2Y dropping down from provisional P2 to P4 right now. And as he makes his way out of Pawn corner here, a very nice flow through Pawn. And now coming down towards the campus chicane here. The medium speed apex chicane, both corners 13 and 14. He's going to be in third gear for these and just gently kiss the apex curve there with the right hand wheel before doing the same with the left hand wheel for the purposes of turn 14 as he now accelerates out the corner there. A little bit of oversteer on exit, which will cost him about a tenth of a second overall, but as he makes his way out of Stablo 1 and now heads up towards Stablo 2 here. It's all about turning in nice and early and getting it tight to the apex curve of Stablo 2. He does so perfectly there and uses the exit curve there, running a little bit too long on the curve there, almost getting pulled away, but he's been able to get himself off that curve, and as a result this is looking a reasonable lap from S2Y. I don't think it's going to be a major improvement though, as he makes his way out towards Blanchimont corner right now. You can see doing a little bit of braking put there, and also the lift to settle the car as he makes his way now down towards the bus stop chicane here, the heaviest braking zone on the circuit for two of the slowest corners on the circuit. We can see coming all the way down to second gear. Will we see a downshifter first? I doubt it, because that will overturn the rear end of the car. But as he makes his way out here, what's it going to be from S2Y? Is it going to be an improvement? It is going to be, it is an improvement by 1.5 tenths, staying in provisional P5, a 231.560. But we can see we've got a new pole sitter right now, and that is GTD's Gigiro 79. I'm doing a very good job right now, a 231.114, and only 66 thousandths ahead of TSA Marco, who we can see here making his way out of the corner as we start to remove some of the screen furniture for you. And Marco right now will be looking to try and hunt down Gigiro's time as they make their way around once more. Meanwhile, we can see here we've got Bart 43 in that P3 position right now, 3 tenths off the leader and 2.5 tenths off of Marco, but he is looking to have consolidated that P3 position on the grid for the purposes of the rolling start. As then we've got Honey Seidel right now making his way around out of what is 002, but running a little bit wide there and going up onto the green curb, or what is also sometimes known as the AstroTurf there, and as a result losing a little bit of rear end on the car. We're getting a nice flow there out of turns 16 into 17 and 18 he comes. This is looking at a very solid lap from Seidel right now as they make their way around and head up towards the braking zone for the bus stop chicane here. A little bit of traffic from Zabadero up ahead, but I don't think that's going to have too much of an impact, and perhaps a distant tow here to help across that finish line in case they're thinking of improvements. We see our first 230 of the night. It's Bart 43 sets a 230.996 as Seidel picks up a 1 second penalty for track limits at the bus stop chicane. That is very unfortunate. That's an automated penalty based on the sensors on circuit, but Bart right now, the Polish driver, a phenomenal lap there, 1 tenth up on the field right now, and I have to imagine that Bart right now will be doing everything he can in order to try and take that pole position ahead of everybody, because that is going to be a surprise to some. As we see there, we've got AC World Media supporting the Italian driver there of Gigiro as they make their way around through the bus stop chicane right now. I'm probably butchering their names, and I apologise if I am, ladies and gentlemen. I apologise if that causes you any frustration, but we press on as we see our Italian man make his way across that timeline here in the 566 car. Not an improvement this time around. He's still got 2 more laps to go in this qualified session, and as we look at the telemetry data here, remember there is no tyre wear on these cars and there's no fuel in the cars. These cars are lightly loaded in terms of fuel, and it's simulated in Gran Turismo Sport as barely any fuel in the car, so they don't have to worry about tyre management in the qualifying or in terms of fuel management here. They just have to worry about that qualifying time, but meanwhile in the race we will have that fuel consumption and that tyre wear modelled. I believe it's a tyre wear of ×8 and a fuel of ×3, as we do see the GTD driver there going a bit sideways over the crest of the ridge at turn 5, and as a result going a little bit off centre. But meanwhile we can see here the BR drivers, the BR driver of S2Y being able to improve to a 231.551, but it's not enough to regain P5 from GTPL's Bax right now, who is 600ths of a second faster than him. We can see here Bax with his best lap being a 231.493, and he's only a 9 thousandths off of Seidel right now. And Seidel here making their way through the campus chicane. And I do think there's some drivers further down who've got a lot of potential to improve, but will they be able to? That is the big question. And we can see Zabanero here at the back of this little cluster of cars, who's in P10 at the moment. His lap time being 1.3 seconds off a pole, a 232.312. And the thing is here, where can you improve? Where do you lose the most time? Well, the fact that these cars are quite slidey on their rear end, as we see Zabanero there losing the rear end on the exit of Stavlo 2. It's all about mastering that art of minute steering inputs. And if you start to see the rear end of the car kick out too much, it's either because the throttle hasn't been balanced on corner exit, or the steering input hasn't been balanced in terms of getting the car settled, and the rear end of the car in particular, where the weight is concentrated, calm down before the driver gets on the throttle. They've got too much steering input, which means the momentum comes around too quickly. So that's why this car is such a major challenge. It's because of the fact you have that weight distribution and that momentum carry around from the rear end of the car, and that's why we're going to see here, as we see Greco really attacking the apex of the first half of the bus stop chicane, and we see Bax doing the same here. They're all trying to straight line that chicane, saying give themselves as much rotation into the second part of it, as we see Greco improving to a 231.119 there, and Bax right now improving to a 231.085 as they go on to their final qualifying laps. And Bax there with a phenomenal lap, only putting him 900ths off a pole. The provisional pole, of course, held by his fellow countryman of Bart 43. But meanwhile, further down that order, we can see in last place at the moment provisionally is Honey Rebels, albeit they've improved to a 232.865, but that's still 800ths off of Derulas, the GTMX driver in P12, who who we are looking at now. Drillers making their way onto the Kemmel Straight for the final time of asking this qualifying session, and they are the best part of 2 tenths down on Ibisamo 91, the CBR driver, who is further around on the circuit right now as they all make their way around. And of course the CBR driver Ibisamo representing Team INCR here, just to clarify things, as we see meanwhile in P9, and we haven't seen too much of him so far, albeit as he makes his way through the Racing Team Astra driver here of Momo 87 coming down through turn number 10. And the Belgian driver here, I think for them it's going to be about damage limitation now in qualifying, because to be 1.16 seconds off of pole and not be able to really close up right now is a suggestion that perhaps they're competing for that midfield position, or perhaps they just do not have the qualifying pace, because remember, with low fuel in these cars, our drivers do not have additional weight in the rear of the car to balance that rear end. These cars will behave very differently in race conditions when they're heavy on fuel, and some drivers prefer to drive this car on heavy fuel because then they've got that additional weight which plants the rear end down when they get on the accelerator on corner exit. I'll personally admit it, I prefer driving this car when I've had my chance to drive one of these in other series. I prefer it when it's got fuel in the rear, just simply because it causes the rear to settle down more, and I find that as the fuel comes out of the car, that's when it gets dicier, and some drivers really love that on-edge driving experience, but not personally myself, but each to their own, as they say. As meanwhile it's Bart 43 right now, who as he makes his way through the campus chicane is looking very strong, as we see Kuba there, our P8 driver, provisional P8, going very sideways there, coming out of the second part of campus, and as a result that's disrupted his run somewhat, coming out of what was campus into Stavlo and cost him a little bit of momentum. But as all of our drivers are now heading ideally down towards Blanchimont and into the bus stop chicane, we will wait and see whether our order is going to change at all as we wait to see who our first drivers across the line. As we see WSR Greco here, there's a little bit of traffic moving out of the way, and that's Sabanero there who's got it very wrong coming out of Blanchimont, as we see Momo improves to a provisional P9 there, but we can see more lap times going in. Seidel with a massive improvement to a 2:31.026. It was Simon there to a 2:32.078. What about further down that order? Will we see any more improvements for anyone? I don't think so at this point in time. I think it's maybe all said and done as we see Kuba across the line. What about Bart? Bart improves to a 2:30.920. Well, I think if anybody needed proof that Bart wants that pole position, he's just giving it to you folks, because that is a gap of a tenth of a second, which is a huge amount of time. As we see Honey Rebels improves there to what is a 2:32.731, and we see that we've just had Mirko DK join the room, which may mean that they end up joining us for race 1, but they'll start at the back. We'll wait and see what our stewards decide. But there's still plenty more laps to go here. We've still got 3 more drivers making their way around the circuit right now as we're trying to find them. Well, we've got Jigiro here, the GTD driver, who's coming through a Blanchimont, and I do think that's going to be the case. Jigiro, I should say, rather than Jigiro, as he makes his way out the corner, and meanwhile further up the road, or just behind him, we've got the Mexican driver there of Marco, who comes up into the bus stop chicane here, and he's got to worry about the fact he's got a ghosted car ahead of him, which may give him a bit of an uncertain run through the corners. We'll just wait and see. But yeah, he's flashing his lights there. It's not working out too much for Marco, as we see S2Y moving out of the way. None of those drivers improved, so pole position does go to Bart 43 in the end, with an absolutely phenomenal lap there of what was in the end a 2:30.920, only a tenth faster than Honey's Seidel 87, but that is all the difference. And now we get ready for race number 1. So as we pan down to the grid here for what will be the rolling start, of course, it will be Bart 43 who takes us away. Seidel alongside him on the front row, Bax and Giro on the second row, Greco and Marco on the third row. But what can Honey Rebels do from down in P12? As we'll be getting the rolling start all the way round to the GT World Challenge line, which is on the run from turn 2 to turn 3. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, Bart will act as a virtual safety car, if you will. All our drivers will be expected to cluster up in the run down towards La Source, and then as they make their way out of La Source, they'll be getting ready to go here. So we'll see that Bart will form up the line. Everyone is expected to drive to a defined pace. As everyone makes their way there out of the bus stop chicane. The reason we do this is because the rolling start here at the bus stop chicane does not accommodate the fact that drivers are still coming through the chicane, so they lose ample time. But you can see here Bart bunching everybody up, and it's for our Polish driver to take us away as he makes his way past the endurance board standings. And it's away they go as Bart gets on the throttle there. All of our drivers going straight up into Rouge and Radion for the 4-lap sprint race of race number 1. As they charge up through the hill here, we can see everybody staying as close as possible to one another. No overtaking unpermitted, of course, until they come out onto the Kemmel Straight. Ipsimo already picking up a half-second penalty for track limits on the run through Rouge through Radion. But meanwhile, we look back up to our leader right now, who's nailed the start very well, has Bart, but Seidel's right there with him as they come up across to the line. And meanwhile, we can see we've got S2Y here coming into the heavy braking zone, the Banana Racing drive on the inside of KRT Kuba here and gaining a place, or is he going to be able to hold on as the rear end slides a little bit through Lacon? But he's got the position, he's up into P7, holding Kuba at bay for the time being as the Polish driver tries to come back at his fellow countrymen. They all surge down towards turn 10, and meanwhile up front you can see that Seidel's making a move here. Seidel's trying to go around the outside to the inside as they come through turn 10 and up into X corner into turn 11. They've got to be careful, it's only the opening lap, but there's only 4 laps in this sprint and every moment is precious as they make their way out of the corner. And you can see that Bart, I think, has been caught a little bit blind as they make their way down into Pouillon corner here for the first time of asking, coming down through that hill. And behind, as we ride on board here with Seidel, you can see in his rear view mirror, he has got an army of Porsches that all want to be in close proximity right now as they make their way charging down. And meanwhile, we flick back to the exterior cameras here, and it's starting to open up a little bit further back from P9 backwards. We've got a second field opening up as we look back to our P9 driver there of Momo, who is holding on right now versus what is Ipsimo here in P10, who's cleared their penalty, Zabanero in P11 and Rebels in P12, Jerulas in P13. But as we look back up towards our race leaders right now, they all make their way through the second part of Stavlo once again. And as they come around, this is of course the first time in racing conditions, you can see right now that Bart is right there in the attacking position as they come around. Will he look for a move here on the first attempt? You're riding on board with Bart 43 as the Polish driver looks for a move to the inside of Blanchimont. It's not here right now, he waits. Instead he's going to go for it to bus stop, but he's had to go heavy on the brakes, and it means that Bax now is in a prime position behind as we look out, and we can see they come into that heavy braking zone. We can see the GTD driver of Gigero 79 looks to the inside, but Bax defends. Meanwhile, S2Y comes charging in there, looking on the inside of Marco, but Marco defends to the inside, the Mexican driver. But as they come out the final corner here at the end of lap number 1, it is very close to call as they come all the way down towards La Source. Lap number 2, turn number 1, once again, Bart is still in P2. S2Y is on the inside versus Marco, and S2Y here with the move, a very long move here, but if he can make it count, he's had a poor run out of La Source here, and Marco's still holding on the outside. Great racing and respect shown between the two of them here, but I think with the slipstream there of Greco just ahead, it's the case that S2Y backs out, but he lets Marco through. I think he thinks he can get the place back in the rundown Kemmel towards Lake Com. I think it's the case that S2Y is playing the long game here, he's playing the mind games as they make their way through. And looking P3, Bax has picked up a half-second penalty through Rouge and Radion, and as a result it means that Gigero He's going to look around the outside here, but will the Italian driver have enough momentum? He does as Bax lifts off the throttle and burns his penalty, but he's got to be careful burning it into a corner as all of our drivers will now cascade together. And we can see behind that S2Y is in that P7 position, and Marco has gained versus what is our GTPL driver of Bax. So he's up into P5 right now, but meanwhile back up front we can see Seidel with a half-second penalty of his own here. Is now going to have to burn that penalty, and Bart will look to capitalise on that as soon as humanly possible. As meanwhile behind them you've got WSL Greco right now in P4. He's trying to chase down the top three, and he's got himself a little bit of breathing room. 1.2 seconds to TSA's Marco in P5 right now. The Mexican driver here who's having a worry about the Polish contingent behind. He's got 3 Polish drivers chasing after him right now, and I think they'd all have a great opportunity to seize that position off him as they make their way down through Pouillon Corner and head up towards campus. Meanwhile in that P9 position we can see here we've got Momo under increasing pressure from CBR Ipsimo 91 as Momo 87 goes into campus, breaking hard on that racing line, not going defensive here. 9, there's not enough room to go through. Those carbon ceramic brakes of course doing a fantastic job of stopping the car, and as they make their way out of the corner here, out of campus and head down towards turn 15, you can see they're starting to close up under braking as they all flow through for the second time of asking. And at the head of this pack, well, you've got Marco here who's doing everything he can to try and hold on as they all come charging out of Stavlo now and head up towards what is Blanchimont and subsequently the bus stop chicane. But meanwhile our race leader is Seidel burning that penalty gradually. Bart has fallen back a little bit, should be pointed out, so Seidel doing a good job of holding on to that lead right now. The gap is of roughly half a second, but meanwhile in that hunt for P5 you can see that Marco has literally got everyone else, and look at meanwhile Kuba and also S2Y also both going sideways, and you can see S2Y coming down the inside of Kuba. A little bit of door-to-door contact there, but I think it was mostly clean and simple there as S2Y gains another position. S2Y really having to work hard here to get every place he can. He really does want to come up through that order as rapidly as possible as the Banana Racing racing driver, and perhaps it's a little bit of competitive rivalry with his fellow countryman. Perhaps he wants to be the fastest Polish driver in the Group F lobby. I'm sure that might be a little bit of national pride on the line as he makes his way out of the source and heads up towards what is Urigen Radion for the third time. And you can see how they're closing up together here. S2Y, however, is really starting to put that pressure onto Baxter as we jump on board here with S2Y. This gives you a feel of what he has to contend with as he comes through as the rear of the car slides, and it comes out even further there, coming out of turn number 5, and it's a case for S2Y. I think he's under major pressure right now to try and get that P6 position. He's pushing so hard. I think he's costing himself a good amount of run as they make their way down the course. You can see behind him right now, we've got Kuba, who is going defensive against it, and Kuba's not close enough, but S2Y is going to come off the racing line to do this, and as a result, the KRT driver here is going to be all over the back of his fellow countrymen as they make their way through turn 9. He's got a little bit wide as S2Y, and as they come out of turn 9 and head down towards 10, Kuba's going to look to the inside here. Surely he's going to go for it on the inside. He does indeed, as we get a flash of the warning lights there from his car where he's going heavy on the brakes, but it's the fact that S2Y holds on by drifting it to the outside there, and Kuba cannot find a way through, and it looks as though right now it's going to let our top 6 break away a little bit as S2Y tries to hold on to that P7 position for the time being. Meanwhile, ahead, Seidel, 1.1 seconds ahead of Bart right now, doing a fantastic job of holding on to the lead for the time being as they make their way out of Pearl Corner once again, and you can see it's the case that the GTD driver Gt3 Rs not able to close up on Bart, and Greco in a similar situation versus the GTG driver header in right now as the WSR man continues to push around on circuit. Marco meanwhile having a bit of a struggle there through campus, and Bax is starting to catch up in the hunt for P5. As we see S2Y continue to hold off Kuba here, but look at how it's causing everybody behind to close up to the battle for P7. But particularly there you see Ipsimo 91 just at the rear of the camera shot as they made their way into Stablo 1, really closing up, and I think it's going to be the case that we could expect to move from Ipsimo as they make their way out the final corner and onto the final lap. But I was going to say that, and then Ipsimo almost gets it wrong coming out of Stablo 2, just putting the rear left wheel on towards the AstroTurf there, and it caused the car to slide a bit more as we can see he's really attacking the entry into Blanchimont here. He's trying to find a way just to extract a little bit more speed out of the car, and as the cars all make their way through a lovely camera shot there, get your cameras out folks, we can see that S2Y defending here versus Kuba on that inside line here and looking for a potential way to defend and looks to go on the offensive versus back, but no way through as we see Honey Rebels there dropping down to P12, burning a penalty into the chicane as Ipsimo has picked up another 1 second penalty at bus stop as they go on to the final lap. So as they go on to this lap, it's Seidel leading by 8 tenths of a second ahead of Bart 43, who's got a gap of 6 tenths to Ugiro 79. And meanwhile, then you've got 1.5 seconds down to P4 man Greco, Marco in P5, Bax in P6, then S2Y in P7 trying to hold on versus Kuba on the final lap. Kuba there in P8, Ipsimo in P9, and then we've got Momo coming through in P10, followed by Zabanir in P11, Rebels in P12, and Urulas in P13 as they all make their way through Urigen Radion here, and we can see the Mexican driver of Urulas not having a good sprint race as he picks up a 1/2 second penalty to add to his woes. But meanwhile, we can see here, it's that case that as all our drivers make their way through, Seidel goes a little bit deep there into Lacom. I think for Seidel, he's pushed it too hard, and we can see that Bart's under increasing pressure here, but with Seidel making that mistake, as we look back here from your race leader right now, the Polishman of PRT, Bart 43 representing Team PRT. He's got a bit deeper Seidel, but Bart does the same, and as they go side by side here, Gigero tries to move to the inside, but now it's a switch to a left-hander. It's X corner, and Bart's going to defend this. There's only one way through X, and they've got to calm it down as we see Gigero goes onto the AstroTurf and onto the grass, and as meanwhile we look back to the exterior cameras, we can see it's Poland versus Italy as they come down into turn 12, and the GTD driver cannot find a way to cut back as Bart holds to the line, and as they now make their way down the hill towards campus, this is giving the race leader a Seidel breathing room. Seidel's being given a lifeline to just run away and take the win. Can Bart hold on to P2, or will it be the case that Kigiro is able to take the position off him come the finish line as he gets snap oversteer through 13 and into 14 he goes. Further down, I can tell you that it is still the case that S2Y is holding off Kuba and has now got his windshield wipers on. That's not going to help the windscreen too much as they make their way through the corners here. No change at the moment. They all come through nose to tail, but meanwhile, looking back to our battle for the lead in P2, we can see that Bart has pulled a 6/10 of a second gap over the GTD driver behind him as they make their way out of turn 16 into 17, and then 18 they come into Blanchimont, and as they charge through here, I think Seidel's got enough of a gap to be able to hold on to that lead unless he makes a cataclysmic mistake right now. As they come through, it's going to be the case that it's going to be the Italian driver, it's going to be very close. Bart defends the inside here, and as they make their way through the corners, he goes around the outside, there's contact and a lock up on the brakes, but one person who's not going to have contact is Seidel as the Honey driver takes the win in the sprint race of race number 1. Bart holding on to P2, P2, Gigero P3, Greco P4, Marco P5, Bax P6, S2Y P7, Kuba P8, Ipsimo 91 P9, then we've got Momo P10, Zabanera 11, Rebels 12, and Nerules P13. Congratulations to all the drivers, but our winner, Honey Seidel 87 from France. Well, a brilliant opening race to tonight's proceedings in Group F. Despite the delays, I think it was more than worth waiting for it. But what we can see here is race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And I think there might be a small stewards' inquiries between Bart and Gigero's contact going into bus stop on the final lap there. I think Gigero tried to go round the outside and Bart went a bit deep on the brakes. But whether that was a block intentionally or whether it's just lock up on the brakes, we'll wait and see. That's for the stewards to find out. I think it was more of a lock up and just simply Bart not being able to stop the car in time. Here are your race results. Honey Seidel winning in the end by 2 seconds over PRT's Bart 43, Gigero 79 in P3, Greco in P4 from WSR, and Marco in P5 round off our top 5. And then the rest of the order, Bax, S2Y, Kuba, Ipsimo, Momo 87, Zabanero 13, Honey Rebels, and then last but not least, Nerules in P13. The fastest lap going to GTD Gigero 79 on lap number 3 at 2:31.673. A fast lap in race conditions. But we are now waiting for our drivers to get ready for race number 2. It'll be the feature race, the much longer 13-lap race. And we will, of course, have the presence of the one driver who wasn't able to take part in race number 1, arriving to the lobby late. And that is Mirko DK. And we can see the CBR underscore driver there will be going racing for Team INCR, much like Ipsimo CBR or Ipsimo 91 representing INCR, and we'll be waiting. As we see there, we've got some DCs being called in, but right now our drivers are looking ready to go racing once again. As we are just waiting for that countdown, and we can see that the call for the next race already, and it does appear as though our drivers are very eager to go racing. And how can you blame them? They really just want to go racing time and time again, and we do love to see it as we check in with you guys and girls in the chat. And I do see there from POSKO there, Bart should have given the place back probably. I do think there is the possibility that he may have been expected to give the place back, which might be understandable. But we can see that we are getting that countdown to the next race right now. And Corinto 10 saying, nice battle, go Gigero, go. Definitely a very close battle there, but I think there may be a potential warning, and perhaps say if another incident like that happens again, then a penalty may be leveraged, because it's the first race tonight. Of course, our drivers may not be used to racing against one another, and so little incidents like that, although it's a pretty moderate incident, I think it may just be given a light touch by the stewards, but I'll let the stewards decide that one. It's always good to hear from you guys and girls in the chat as to what you're thinking with regards to the racing, of course, and all the exciting moments. And do let me know who you think could be our winner in race number 2, as we're waiting for that countdown right now, and I believe Greco is going to give us that very shortly. But as we are now just waiting for that countdown, I believe it is going to be those cases where everyone will be charging around. As we do see there, Greco trying to push the proceedings forward here with Honey Rebels. Obviously, Honey Rebels being our lobby leader and our trackside steward. As we do see the time of day change then, and we'll be seeing our drivers being asked to ready up for the 13-lap race. We've got that reverse grid based on previous race results. So everyone will now be asked to ready up, and then we will be go for race number 2. And of course, this one, the feature race, where we are expected to perhaps have a single pit stop for our drivers. What are the fact we do have the tyre wear and fuel consumption active. And for those wondering what are the tyre wear and the fuel consumption modelled at, well, let me give you that quick summary. It is going to be the case that we have that tyre wear of ×8 and a fuel consumption of ×3. And that will mean, I think the fuel might be critical, but it's going to be the case those tyres are going to become very edgy come the end of the race if they're not changed, that is for sure. But right now, everybody being asked to ready up down in the paddock, and then we will be going racing for those 13 laps around the legendary Belgian circuit. As we do have I think we've got a pit glitch for some drivers here. Zabanero, I think that's Zabanero. Yep, Zabanero having a lot of difficulty in the pits, and then getting the resets of bits. And the same with Momo here. Things going a little bit wrong as everybody tries to leave the pit lane. And things have gone a little bit wrong with regards to the lobby. This does happen every so often. We do get the classical pit bug that occurs in GT Sport, and a number of drivers reported it. I suspect what will happen is, because we're going straight into a race, we may just jump straight for the race rather than try to get this bug resolved. As we can see here is a prime example, as that poor Marshall has just been fortunately ghosted through by the car. Right now, we will just very quickly check back with regards to what's happening here. We are waiting for some drivers to ready up. And we are getting the call for a new lobby. So we are going to have a further delay to proceedings right now, ladies and gentlemen. But please bear with us. This is going to take at least another 5 to 6 minutes before we can go racing again. As we just capture a screenshot there of the finishing positions to make sure that they are not lost for everyone. Now, we are just waiting for the lobby to be reformed. This does happen every so often, folks. Just waiting for the revised Group F lobby to be opened. And there it is. We join it once again. Alrighty, so everyone is joining in, and we should be going racing once everyone's readied up, assuming there's no more technical issues with the lobby. Fingers crossed, of course. You can see Bart 43 able to pull out the pits automatically. That's great to note. As everybody now proceeds to join the lobby once more. Now, it will be the case, of course, with that the fuel and tyre consumption being modelled in, and the grid order will be set by our host now as everybody readies up. Bart 43 are flying there through the Lacom section. And Greco trying to do the same now. Albeit picking up a half-second penalty coming up towards Lacom. As all our drivers try to cut as much as possible out of the rise through turn 5 to try and straight line it. We are getting that manual grid as is being set by our lobby host right now. Yeah, just bear with us, folks. We should be going racing again within the next 5 minutes. Lovely looking pieces of German machinery here, and it's beautiful to see the team liveries being featured. And that's what this championship's all about. It's team versus team. Whilst our individual drivers want to score as many points as possible, it's the team effort at the end of the day which matters the most. I can see Zabanero here doing everything he can as he flies out of Stabilo 2 and heads down towards Blanchimont right now. The HKRT driver absolutely charging. Getting a little bit wrong there into bus stop, going a bit deep on the brakes, and as a result missing the apex. As we see the request for Kuba to ready up so we can set the manual grid for Kuba as well, get him into the grid. We now do have our full complement of 14 drivers, which is great to see, and it means we will have a full racing pack for the rest of the races tonight. Of course, unfortunate for our Italian driver of Mirko DK to miss out on race number 1, joining late. However, that's the way it goes. But now we will, of course, have him here for the rest of the races. And he'll be looking forward to that, no doubt. And he'll be looking to act as a little bit of an unknown because nobody's seen what pace he can unleash. So as a result, he is an unknown driver here right now because we haven't seen him in qualifying and we didn't see him in race number 1. As he goes on to his second lap. And you can already see there in the telemetry data in that bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you can see just a tiny little bit of life has been taken from the rear tyres, in particular on those sports hards. And I think given the fact he's on to his second lap already, we'll expect those tyres to go a good amount of time. But look at that fuel by comparison. Already only halfway around his second lap and he's used up what is a quarter of a fuel tank. The fuel is going to be the big challenge in this one. And I think it's going to be a case of a lot of short shifting here and using one gear higher than you may potentially use where you can in order to get that fuel tank to last a little bit longer and save you time in the pits, because right now if we're basing it takes approximately 1.5 laps is a quarter of a fuel tank. If you do the maths and times that by 4, then you end up in a position whereby 1.5 times 4 will give you 6. So you can imagine here we're at least expecting 1 stop for fuel to take on a full tank of fuel, but of course you'll need to make the fuel tank last a little bit longer for the simple reason it's 13 laps, not 12. But as we can see now, the request from our lobby steward of Rebels, Honey Rebels, to say, is everybody ready to go? We are getting the thumbs up from our drivers to go, so we should be going racing now. As we see the countdown then, ladies and gentlemen, race number 2, 13 laps and a reverse grid. Who's going to be the winner? Let's find out. So as we pan down to the grid, this time it is our new joiner there of Mirko DK, who starts on par with GTX Rulers down in P2. Rebels in P3, Zabadero P4, Momo and Ipsimo line up on the 3rd row. But watch out for our winner from the last race, Seidel. He's going to be looking to come through the pack as quickly as possible as we proceed to get this manual rolling start underway. And it'll be Mirko DK who takes us away once we come out of turn 2 and head up towards the GT starting line. As we see a car spinning there on what is the rolling start. I think a car has had a glitch, and that looks to be, is that the car of Kuba? That is the car of Kuba there that's going to start right in the middle. But unfortunately for us, because we do, and Kuba unfortunately has withdrawn when he could have joined into the rolling start there. So as a result, we're now down to 13 cars. That is very unfortunate, but I think Kuba at the time probably thought that because of the bug, as a result, he wouldn't be able to get started. But we can see here how the rest of the field are having to charge up to the back of the lead pack here as rapidly as possible, and I think this will be permitted given the fact we've had unexpected circumstances. But Mirko DK has got to be aware of the fact that our field are a little bit further out. Perhaps he's not aware, of course, he won't see this from where he is, but we'll wait and see how much our field can close up. But I think it's going to be a case that it's Mirko DK who's going to take us away, and everyone is closed up behind. That's great to see. And Mirko does get us underway then as we go charging up the hill for the 13-lap feature race and race number 2. And as all drivers are aware, whilst they're not allowed to overtake through Rouge Radion, they are allowed to overtake once they come out of turn 5 and go down towards the Kebble Straight. And you can see immediately here our race leader has had a good start, but meanwhile it's the case that Zabanero has really struggled on the start here, and he's got a great amount of pressure as they're already 3 wide and they haven't even made it down the Kebble Straight. And it's the case that our P4 man here of S2Y is surging through here. He's come through from P7, the Banana Racing driver, would you believe it, taking 3 places in a single run, and that's on the opening lap. And he's definitely got that car up to temperature, those tyres in particular. That is a phenomenal move, but he's made a little mistake here. As we see behind, you've got Momo 87 on the inside of Ipsimo as they come down the hill into turn 10. Both drivers going a little bit deep, and Momo going deep off Apex, and it forces Ipsimo wide, but Momo gets the move done there, giving Ipsimo just enough room to stay racing as they make their way around a little bit further back. You can see there's GTPL's backs, who's just got through Zabanero as well, as they make their way out of turns 10 and 11, and now down towards 12, down towards Pearl Corner here. And it's definitely the case that the mid to rear field really closed up, whereas our race leaders are being allowed to get away a little bit to start with. This can happen in the reverse grid races, where you do see the field very quickly oscillate because of one driver who's a little bit slower than the guys behind, falling down the pack and fighting their way down the pack. As we can see, TSA Marco now trying to go around the outside of Zabanero into Campus. He will get the switch back to the inside into 14, but he's got to be worried more about Greco trying to go all the way around the outside. The number 29 driver from WSR doing a good job there of staying in the fight, but not able to get the momentum all the way around the houses there, as they now come into Stavlo for the first time. And you can see as they flow through Stavlo 2 very shortly, getting very close right now, and Greco in that P10 position, losing out a little bit in the run there. As we were up front, we can see that Mirko DK holding on to a consistent pace right now, but Rules and Rebels both really starting to close up as they surge through Blanchimont here, and as they come through left-hander of turn 18 and head up towards 19 and 20 into the heavy braking zone of bus stop they're about to come. Will we see any late moves? I don't think so, not this early on, but you do see Rebels here going for a look on the inside versus Rules there. A little bit of a feint to the inside as further back they all concertina into the braking zone, and Zabanero here losing positions down to P11 as Bart looks for a potential move on the Greek driver, and he cannot find it, and Seidel standing P13. But you can see Seidel getting a move there on Bart as Bart goes a little bit wide there. The two of them who were battling for the lead in race 1 are now battling for P12 in race 2 as they go on to lap number 2. So as they come out of the source and head up the hill, we can see it is leading as he comes around through turn number 2 right now. It's Mirko DK leading by 1.3 seconds ahead of GTMX Jerulas. Then Honey Rebels all over the back of him here as they make their way through. Then S2Y and Momo round off our top 5. But we look back to our battle for P2 right now, and we can see that Rebels all over the back of Rulas here. The Mexican driver's going to have to defend to the inside down to the Kibble Straight here if he's going to want to hold the position, but he's picked up a half-second penalty. And I think it's going to be pace there. That'd be wise for him to just come off the racing line and lift off, but he's going to defend it here into the corner, and as a result, as he now breaks into the corner, Rebels is going to feel a little bit inconvenienced here as they make their way through Les Combes, and we can see that he's gained the place as Rebels, but it was made harder than perhaps he would have liked it to be, as S2Y is now over the back of these pair of guys in P4 and attacking them. Momo in P5, then Ipsimo in P6, then we've got Bax in P7, we've got Marco in P8, Greco in P9, Gigiro in P10 with a half-second penalty for track limits at Rouge, and then we've got Seidel, who's now got into P11, Bart in P12, Zabanero in P13. They've both cleared Zabanero here as we look back up towards our leader right now, who is breaking away, but it is Rebels who in that P2 position has now got Rulas and S2Y really bearing down on him. And as we look back here from our P2 man, you can see how the GTMX driver, whilst he's had a poor run out of Pearl Corner, he's now actually acting a bit of a buffer here for Rebels. The Frenchman would do wise to break away here if possible, because S2Y is getting frustrated. You can see the body language, there's a little bit of contact there into what is Campus as they make their way through, and I think for our P2 man, if he can capitalise on the contact between Jerulas and S2Y and they're battling, he will be able to break that toe as they make their way into Stavlo here, and as they come through for the GTMX driver, you do have to ask yourself the question, question in his mind. Is it wiser to fight and hold on to the position, or to let S2Y go and act as a pace car and pull him along? Well, I think to the G2X driver, he wants every point he can get, and if he can hold up S2Y and bring Momo into this fight, as you can see there, it's the case. S2Y is looking for every which way round right now, but the Banana Racing driver needs to be patient here. He doesn't need to force this move on. It's too early in the race to force it. Let Rules lose the pace out of the corner, because S2Y surely knows he's got more pace as they make their way down to bus stop, and the Mexican defends and squeezes S2Y, but S2Y in the end is let through. As we see a little bit further back there, we have got GTPL's back set on the inside of what is Marco. I think he's looking for a move on Ipsimo as well. Ipsimo has come through him as they make their way out of the corner. A bit hard to tell, but you can see that Back's losing out there in the pace stakes coming out of the bus stop chicane versus the CBR Ipsimo 91 at present as they make their way down towards turn at well once again. And of course, continued around right now. They're on lap number 3. They've still got 11 laps to go, including this one. And right now, the midfield pack in particular, in the hunt for what is P3, really close together. As we do see S2Y has got the position off of what is Rules. Let's take a look back at how it happened. So I believe it was coming out of bus stop and the move got done here, and yep, it was a simple case of defending into turn 1. S2Y had the run out of bus stop to take the lead of that position and then hold on. But we look back to live pictures right now. Is it the case that he's still holding on? He is versus Rules as they make their way down towards Lake Om here. But I think we've got a driver coming through, and it's Rules with a penalty burn here. He's got to be wary of burning it and getting close to other drivers. As we can see, Momo has gone through the ghosted car there of Rules, and I don't think Momo had anywhere else to go, did the Belgian. So it's a change of place. Momo up into P4 right now as all our drivers come surging through and down towards turn 10 once again. And as they come down here, we can see the pace of the racing a little bit slower than what we'd normally expect. The fastest lap right now being a 2:33.538, and normally we would be expecting 2:32s or 2:31s around here, but I think a lot of our drivers' time is being spent on fuel saving as Rules goes wide there out of X corner and rejoins with dirty tyres. Now he's going to have a difficult time coming through Pawn Corner here, and we should expect him to go a little bit deep. He does go deep on braking. A lock up there as they make their way through, and if Simon comes through on the inside here, the Italian driver up into P5 as they now come down through the hill. But for the Italian, he's got to be aware of the fact that Rules will want to come back as quickly as possible as Bax now goes on the offensive here into Campers, and what a brilliant move by Bax there to capitalise on the Mexicans' poor pace out of Pawn Corner. And as they go through at the chicane right now, Bax up into P6 and gradually ascending through the order. And at the back of this pack, we can see Marco coming through here on the inside of his teammate, and well, not teammate, my apologies, on the inside of his fellow countryman, I should say. These two representing different teams, of course. Rules representing GTMX, Marco representing TSA, and Marco forcing a move through there on the Stavlo corner, and a very nice job of it right now. And of course, this is going to enable Bax to pull away as they make their way through. But look here at how you've got the battle between the Italian of Giro, and we've got Rules in P8 right now as they make their way out of Blanchimont corner, and we've got Greco behind, who is really starting to build up that pace here. The Belgian knows that there's places to be gained, and the GTMX and GTD drivers are taking a huge amount of time out of their race right now as they both make their way through the corner and then some, and now head on to lap number 4. But I can imagine that it's going to be Seidel in P11 who will be shortly looking to make the offensive move here, as we see that Barton's having an era of changing places, and I think Barton's made a mistake somewhere. We can't see any damage on the car, but there has been a mistake from the Polish driver, because we were expecting to really come up. But the fastest lap now updated to a 2:33.123 as owned by this man right here, the Banana Racing driver of S2Y, as he makes his way through turns 3 through to 5 right now. Our race leader of Mirko DK being caught up by Honey Rebels right now, who is now 7 tenths back and closing in the slipstream down the Kemmel Straight. And I think for what is our Italian leader right now, he'll be worrying a little bit about the fact that Rebels is going to be getting a bit of fuel saving in that slipstream as well as additional pace, as meanwhile further back in the hunt for P3, S2Y alone, and it's Momo and P4. We see Ipsimo and P5 right now holding off Bax, and we do see behind Marco really trying to come through versus the Polishman here. And it was the case that Bax pulled away from Marco battling Rules, as we see Giro here picking up that P8 position, and we see it is the GTMX driver who is falling down the order. He looks to the inside of the Italian here. A little bit of a scrappy moment from the pair of them, but it looks as though the GTMX driver went for the move, and the GTD driver didn't quite shut the door in time, but he's going to make sure that door is open this time. Here's Giro as they make their way for X corner, but it's the switch switchback from the GTMX driver here as there's contact between the two of them, but I do think Ruelas does need to give Gigero a little bit more space on exit there, because that was almost a force onto the grass, but you can see the GTMX driver wants it, and as they make their way through the corner, a bit of contact there to knock Ruelas wide, but I think it was going to be nip and tuck all the way, as the fact we did try and see the cutback there from what was Gigero, who is carrying on all the same in P8 right now, and it's a change of position there, and the GTMX driver dropping down the order into what is now going to be a very difficult P11, losing multiple places there, fighting for that position through the run out of turn 10 all the way down towards Pouhon corner. But meanwhile, as they make their way through, we can see our race leader now under increasing pressure as Honey's Rebels is getting closer and closer in the acceleration zones here. They make their way out towards Blanchimont corner for the fourth time of asking, building up that speed, of course, and as they come up into the corner, now it's going to be the case. Will Rebels look for the move into a bus stop chicane, or will Mirko DK make a phenomenal run out of it? Well, he's had a good run. In fact, he's had the better run compared to the Frenchman. I do not think the Honey driver here is going to be able to go for the move unless it's a long distance attack. But you can see how Mirko DK got it wrong there on the apex of the first start of the bus stop chicane, and as a result, he's had to park it on apex, and that's giving him a really sloppy run in the run across that timeline to lap number 5 right now. And whilst that gap is a little bit bigger, it is the case it will come crashing down once again as we see our top 3 now starting to close up here. S2Y knows he's got an opportunity, and meanwhile then Marco coming through versus Bax for P6, and Bax not putting up a defense. I don't think he expected it to come through like that as they all make their way through here, and PRT's Bart 43 right in the rear of the pack as they all come charging around on lap number 5, come through turn 2 and up through Rouge and ready on very shortly. And it's anyone's game right now in the battle for the lead, as we do see here it's the case that our Italian leader getting a good run there, and it's S2Y who picks up a half-second penalty this time, and Rebels will be relieved at this point, a little bit less pressure on his shoulders as he makes his way down into Lake Com once again. And meanwhile, further back here we can see we've got Marco versus Bax. These two trading places, or are they not? No, they're not. Bax tucks out in the end. Marco going for the racing line and going deep into the corner there, keeping the position and good momentum as we see a flash of the lights of Marco's car there, and I think he's saying thank you to Bax and not contest it too hard. I think he's trying to get a signal through to Bax to work with him to fuel save, so that way they can go hunting for the positions later on, as we see Greco versus Seidel right now, and Seidel is trying to come through, but Greco defending to the inside into X here, and you can see Seidel very wise this night not to go for the move into X because it's not a too wide corner, at least on apex, and meanwhile it's putting pressure on Greco. The WSR driver must be feeling right now that Seidel's looking for a way through. Now remember, Seidel is theoretically the fastest race pace driver because he won race number 1, or at least one of the top drivers here. Greco in that P4 position is expected to be a little bit slow, but we do know that in these feature races it's a completely different mindset because you've got to protect the car as they make their way through Campus Chicane once again here. And a bit further back you can see Ruelas from GTMX being attacked by Zabanera here, and Bart 43 continue to hunt them down in P11 as they make their way through the chicane and head towards Stavlo. And we can see Zabanera, they're getting a really solid run out of Campus, in fact having a very short run to Stavlo compared to the Mexican driver ahead of him. Will he be looking for a move up into bus stop as our race leaders make their way through? And it's Rebels still holding on to P2 right now, but S2Y, look at the momentum being built by the Polishman here, but he does have to think about lifting into Blanchimont just a little bit earlier. We can see Rebels, they're getting a really high run on the apex curve. I think S2Y could be looking for the move here. He looks to the outside, Rebels defends the middle of the circuit. Will S2Y go around the outside? They're side by side under braking. That's the case. Rebels holds on, but S2Y's there on the inside. Momo's starting to close up as well. It's going to be a drag race out the corner, and Rebels holds on for the time being, but you can see how everybody else behind is getting closer and closer to the back of them as they come up into the heavy braking zone for turn 1 once again. And now Momo will look for an opportunity here. The RTA driver will know there is a chance to get into a podium fighting position, but also Ibsamo and Marco, and we've also got Bax and Gigero there all closing up, and this is the battle for P2, ladies and gentlemen. We have literally got 7 cars separated by only 2 seconds of space on the road, and this is phenomenal as they make their way through. And as they come through the left into right combination and then over the hill, we can see it's the case that right now Rebels trying to hold on for dear life as they make their way down. You can see S2Y here trying to slipstream his way through as he comes off the racing line. Momo there with a double toe. Momo goes through it, he's on the middle and he's gone through, but Momo, as he caught the brakes, he's gone too deep, and the Belgian there trying to do a Moses manoeuvre and it hasn't worked out. out, and instead he's dropped down. Now that would have been legendary if he'd been able to get that done. That might have been the move of the round as they make their way down towards turn number 10. But Momo there with just too much momentum in that double toe, and he's now lost the P5 position to Ibsimo, who's going to take it, and the Italian will now go on the offensive as we see that S2Y gain the position because he was on the inside with the fast charge in Momo coming between him and Rebel. So S2Y has gained the place, but let's just take a quick look back at that, ladies and gentlemen, because that was a phenomenal attempt. So to give you an idea here, watch this. We're riding on board with Momo. He's going to get not just a toe of one car, but two. And look at the overspeed he gets here as S2Y goes to the inside to attack Rebels. You can see he thinks, oh, I need to close the door versus Momo, but Momo comes through, but just too late on the brakes here in that overspeed, and the car just does not stop in time. If only he'd broken about 15 to 20 metres earlier, that could have been a phenomenal double overtake, but it is what it is, and you can see Momo down to P5 is continuing on all the same as they make the way through Stablo right now. And we say hello to ATR Corsa and Angelo Fari in the chat. We hope you guys are doing well, and we're glad to hear you guys are enjoying the racing right now as Mirko DK holds on to lead for the time being on lap number 6, coming through Blanchimont, 1 second clear of S2Y. And I think S2Y right now is starting to put the pedal down. I think he's building up momentum as we see Rebels there going sideways into Blanchimont, really pushing the limits of traction on those rear tyres. And let's look at that telemetry data where you can see here the tyres are not terribly worn as Momo looking for the move here. Boy, he's defending. Well, hold on a second. It's a little bit of change of place. And Marco trying to go all the way around the outside, and Momo into the pit. So Momo goes for the undercut rather than the overcut, as we see Gigiro as well going into the pit. So 2 drivers in, everybody else stand out. Now, lap 7 is the expected lap that our drivers would pit on normally, but instead it's the case we've got a couple of drivers going for the undercut. Now, will they go for tyre changes? That will be the big question, because the pit time loss here in the pits, of course, for what is just a standard pit stop is in the region, and that's with a tyre change. That will be in the region of, we believe, about 30 seconds. With fuel, it's going to be longer. Well, all our drivers have to take on fuel, but you can imagine that it's going to be the case that with a little bit of extra time taking those tyres on, our drivers may benefit, because the tyre change itself is only about 4 to 5 seconds as they all make their way down towards turn number 6, turn number 7 once again. It's Mirko DK who's under increasing pressure right now from S2Y as they make their way through Les Combes, and as they come through the sequence of corners here. What does the Italian do? We know that he hasn't quite got the pace of the driver behind him. In fact, he's really lost out of turn 9 here, but does he fight this hard, or does he focus on just bringing home a good result? I think for Mirko right now, it's a case of just simply hold on to that lead as much as possible, because if he can keep S2Y behind him for a bit of time as they make their way through turn number 11, imagine what he could do if he could back S2Y up into Rebels. I think he could find a way effectively of being able to get Rebels back into the fight for P2 and break away once again. But as they make their way through Pearl Corner now, you can see how S2Y just simply has that command of the grip by comparison with our race leader as they come surging down the hill. And meanwhile, further behind, we can see it's that case that Ibsimo in P4 right now, looking to close up to Rebels as they come into that braking zone for Campus, but he goes a little bit high on the entry curve and goes deep as they flow through the right into left combination right now. And Ibsimo doing everything he can to try and hold on to that position as he flows out 14 and up into 15. Marco, however, is not going to let him have it easy as the TSA driver builds up that momentum coming out of Stablo 1 and into Stablo 2 they come here, and there could be a potential wheel. There's contact on the cars here. We can see Ibsimo getting a little bit disturbed and Marco carrying so much momentum through the corner, and Ibsimo struggling for momentum through Stablo 2, and I think it's going to be a case here that he's going to look to the outside into Blanchimont, but this is going to be challenging, but Ibsimo takes the lead back in this battle for P4 as they make the way into left-hander, and Marco being wise, he knows not to attack, he knows to back out of it, stay behind, don't do anything silly, just simply wait there, wait for that opportunity as they go into the heavy braking zone. And our race leader right now, will he pit, or will we see everybody coming to the pits? We do. Everybody is ripping and roaring into the pits as we've got every single car in right now, and I think it's a natural cause for our drivers, as meanwhile we will have, of course, whilst our top 11 are going in, we will have Momo and Gigiro who pitted a lap earlier. Remember, they are now making their way around, and how are they going to jump up through the field on fresh tyres and a full tank of fuel? Will Momo be able to to get further up the field and recover from what he lost earlier on. As we see all the pit crews going to work very shortly, we're just waiting for them to pull into their boxes. As we see Seidel has saved a huge amount of fuel, 29% fuel remaining for Seidel as he pulls into his box. He could jump multiple places here in this pit stop. But meanwhile, as we look back to the pictures, we see Momo's gone deep and Giro is battling with him out the final corner. And this is not good news for the pair of them, because this battling will cost them both major time. And you can see the Italian thinking about trying to make the move, but then realising, no, I can't fight him because we'll lose out massively. As Rebels is now coming out the pits, and look who has jumped all the way up into what is P2. That's Seidel, who's right on the back there of Mirko, and he's looking for the move already. Seidel has just jumped the best part of 8 places in a pit stop through simply fuel saving on his opening stint, and Mirko DK is now in the nightmarish position. He's got the 2 honey drivers who can work this one together and find a way, and immediately they're going on the offensive. Mirko's just got no pace as they make the way down towards Wesley Com. He's going to go very deep on the brakes here to hold on. Will Seidel be able to go all the way around the outside as they make their way through turn 7? He holds on for now, a good defensive move, and Seidel, he's got his rear gunner of Rebels here. The 2 honey drivers need to make this happen fast though, because look who's in P4. It's S2Y, and he will be chomping at the bit to come back to them. As if Cyros hold on to P5 for the time being. Momo's come back out in P6 when all the strategies considered, but he's got the warmed up tyres right now. They make a move in towards turn 10, but no way through for the RTA driver, although Cyro goes a little bit deep, but he's not gone deep enough for Momo to be able to gain as they make their way into turn number 11 here, and now they're on lap number 8. No more pit stops expected for anyone unless anyone gets damaged, and we see further back in the picture there, we've got Greco in P9. It's not worked out in the pit stop for him, as he's now got Marco all over his back as they make their way into Pouron corner here for the 8th time of asking. But meanwhile, our race leader, he's doing everything right so far. And whilst he wasn't able to take part in race number 1, this is a very strong showing in race number 2 so far. And the CBR driver, Mirko DK, doing a great job at trying to hold in there and hold off Seidel and Rebels here. But you can see, look at what Rebels is doing. Notice he's fallen back a little bit from his teammate in P3. And what this is to do is to act as rear gunner for Seidel while Seidel tries to find a way through. And Rebels here may do a little bit of fuel saving behind his teammate to give himself extra fuel to burn in the end, where he can use a little bit more of the revs, because remember, our drivers do have to fuel save on both stints, we believe, in order to get to the end. So a bit of fuel saving is critical here, as we can see our top 3 making their way through Blanchimont corner once again. But I think for Mirko right now, what Seidel will do, if he can't find a way through in the opening couple of laps, Seidel will tuck in behind, stay very close, and look for an opportunity as Rebels looks to the inside here into bus stop with way too much momentum there, and I think he had to take to the inside there to get rid of that dirty and try and stop the car before collecting his teammate. So Rebels having a bit of difficulty as they all make their way across that timeline to go on to another lap, and S2Y right now as they go on to lap number 9, doing everything he can as behind. We can see it's all heating up here as all of our drivers come across that timeline to go on to 9 out of 13. There's still 5 more laps to go, and it could be anyone's guess that's going to play. Zavanera in P12 right now has fallen a little bit back off a bar, and Rules has really lost out the GTMX driver down in P13. But meanwhile, as our leaders make their way through, Mirko, they're cutting a major section of Urian Radion, and he's got dirt on his tyres now as a result. And that's definitely going to be a time penalty, and Seidel will capitalise on it. As we see Mirko go to the inside once again, and Seidel goes to the outside. Now, surely the honey driver's got the momentum to go all the way around, but Mirko closes in on the inside. It's a repeat of the lap when they came out of the pits. But remember, Mirko is ghosting right now due to the penalty. They're still side by side for 8 into 9. They go, and Seidel braves it round the outside, and he clears Mirko here, but can he hold on as Mirko will try and come back at him? But I think Seidel has got it done there. A brave move from Seidel to retake the lead. As we see now, Rebels will try to do the same as they make their way around out of turn 10 and into turn 11. Now, of course, here, S2Y really needs to be closing up on these guys, but I think for S2Y right now, he may be struggling a little bit with the compound. Perhaps he hasn't got that compound up to temperature as much as he would like as they make their way down to Pouron corner here, but I would have expected S2Y to be a bit closer than this as he makes his way down through Pouron corner, but perhaps he's having to nurse an issue on the car as we see Momo versus Kigiro here as they make their way through Pouron corner here side by side, and we're going to take a look back at how this has all started off shortly. But Momo right now defending to the inside into campus here. Great racing for the two of them, great great respect shown, as we've seen in the past in the racing here. And as they make their way through 14, it is the case right now the Italians got to be a bit more inventive and find somewhere else to get through, because it's not happening through Campus and through Puon as they make their way through Stavlo 1 and head up towards Stavlo 2. And we see the GTG driver there getting a little bit of snap over still on exit. He's getting too close to the back of Momo to be able to carry the momentum out of the corner and go on the offensive. But now he's a bit further back. He's going to have a nice extended run all the way out towards Blanchimont corner and then towards bus stop here. Can he make some magic happen, or will the RTA driver be able to hold off the GTD charge as they come into the corner? We see that he's got a little bit deep and he's had to slide the car through the corner, and he's just about held on. Well caught, but the Italian driver has lost a sizable amount of time now as they make their way into bus stop once again. And of course that one mistake cost him a significant amount of time, giving him a time penalty as well, but he'll burn that very rapidly. Let's take a look back at how that all kicked off. Was coming out of Ix, and Momo was defending coming out of Ix, but he stayed on the racing line here, not expecting Gigero to go for a move on the inside there, and you can see how much time it cost the pair of them as then they went through the sequence as we saw. But meanwhile, as we look back up towards our race leader now, he's pulled a second already. It's the case that Seidel is starting to fly, as meanwhile Mirko is holding off Rebels for the time being here. He's doing a good job as the Italian. He's let one of them through, but he's not going to let both of them through. But again, I think it's now a case of the slipstream, as we see Rebels getting a phenomenal run through Rouge and Radion. He'll look to the outside onto the Kemmel straight. He's going to try and go all the way around. It's a drag race now down towards the braking zone for Lakecom, but Rebels has got a long run down. He's already ahead into the braking zone they go here, and Mirko's not going to find a way back as Rebels takes that racing line and takes the position. But remember, for Mirko right now, I think that P3 will be more than enough to keep him happy as they make their way through towards turn number 10. And further back, we can see S2Y here in P4. He's closing up now on Mirko. I think Mirko is starting to hit a little bit of a cliff in terms of his pace, and this could give S2Y the doorway to get the position. But we will wait and see. Can the Polish driver get himself onto the podium, or will it be the case that Mirko holds on instead as they make their way through X corner? And as they come charging down the hill right now, we can see that S2Y not able to close up enough here. Mirko doing a phenomenal job to hold on to that P3 position and keep that pace consistent, as Momo has got a sizable gap now between himself and P7 man, which is GTD's Kiguro 79, as they make their way down through the hill. And we can see now it's the case that Marco and also Bax, the TS8 and GTPL drivers, are closing up on our P7 driver as they make their way into Campus. Now, if I was in the GTG driver's position, I've got to fight for every position now. I don't seem to be able to take on Momo, so I've got to try and hold on. And you can see Marco trying to squeeze his nose there on the inside through 14. It's not going to happen. What he's trying to do is get into Gigero's head in terms of making a mistake or forcing him into a position of uncomfort. And Bax is right behind these two, of course. So remember, it's a lot of pressure building as we ride on board right now with the Italian driver here as they come out of Stavlo 2. He's had a really good run out of Stavlo 2. You can see how the gap opened up on initial exit. It's only because of the slipstream that now they'll start to close up here as they make their way out of what is the first part of Blanchimont and into the main apex of 18. As they come over the brow of the apex there, you can see it's the case all three drivers getting a good run. No real change between the three of them. Into that heavy braking zone they go again here, and as they now make their way, Marco goes a bit deep under braking, and there's contact. There is some major contact between the two cars there, and we can see the Italian driver holding on right now. And I think there might be a little bit of a latency item because Marco looked as though he stopped the car perfectly, but the contact I think propelled Kigero forward, and you can see that Marco has backed out of it, and in backing out of it, Bax has tried to get a run into La Source, but it hasn't happened. So as a result, there's no change between these drivers, but Greco right now, WSR Greco, is closing once again as they now come out of turn 2 and head up towards Rouge and Radion for the 11th time of asking. 3 laps remaining, and there's still plenty of points on the table to fight for as they come through the left into right combination here. Up the hill they go, Greco trying to get the best possible move versus Bax, and Bax getting a bit of a tank snapper there as they make their way out of 5 and into 6, and as they come through the right-hander onto the Kemmel straight. Will the Belgian have the move here? I don't think he's going to have enough. I think he hasn't got enough speed here. Well, the fact that Bax has got the slipstream of Marco. They come into that braking zone, and Marco is going to be attacked by Bax. Bax goes incredibly deep, and you could see the brake discs there went completely red. That was a lock-up on the front brakes, and now Bax rejoins, but he's lost the positions and drops down to P10 as Bart 43 is let through by Bax there. Bax having to get that car reset effectively. But let's take a look back at what happened. So riding on board with Bax here, and then initially you can see Greco losing out because Bax, as we look forward from his car, is gaining that speed on Marco. But watch here, the brake marker comes up that 150 meter board, and you can see Bax there just completely missed his brake marker, had to move out of the way without hitting the back of Marco. Bax did well to avoid hitting Marco, but in return has lost himself a lot of time in this race. He's dropped all the way down to P11, and Zabanera is closing up, and he's the fastest man on circuit, Zabanera, a 2:32.268 from the HKRT driver as he makes his way down through Puon corner. But meanwhile, our race leader just simply holding on for the time being to that lead. 2.5 seconds and growing is his gap to his teammate Honey Rebels as Seidel. As meanwhile in the battle for P3, you can see Mirko DK here having to hold on to that podium position versus S2Y as they come out of Stablo 2. They've got to go around twice more after this lap, and you do have to wonder where it's going to be the case that Mirko will be able to hold on. S2Y has been building up to this for some time. As we see a bit further back here, we see when Momo right now has fallen back into the clutches of Gigiro once again here. I think Momo's made a mistake somewhere else on the circuit, but he's been caught sizably. But meanwhile, in the battle for P3, will there be a move here from S2Y, the Banana Racing driver? Will he look for it? He's not going to go for it. What about in that battle for P5 where it's Momo on the inside here, and he goes a bit deep under braking. He catches the car in time, but Gigiro goes all the way round, and the Belgian loses out to P5 there. Gigiro doing a very nice job of regaining the position. As meanwhile in that battle for P3, you can see the Banana Racing driver here not going for the move early. And I think what S2Y is trying to do, he's trying to get the move done on the Kemmel straight, because what he'll want to do is go through Les Combes. Because what we're noticing, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that whilst Mirko is slower over the course of the lap, it's in sectors 2 and 3 where he is predominantly slower compared to S2Y. So what S2Y needs to do, he needs to make the pass in sector 1, so that way he can then gain the gap through sectors 2 and 3 to not have Mirko come back at him into bus stop or down here. And you can see now in the long run down towards what is turn 7 through to 9 Les Combes, it's the case that Mirko's not got the tail for Rebels anymore. S2Y looks to the inside here, they both go late on the brakes. It's going to be nose to tail here as they make the way in, and it's a case for a little bit of ghosting that S2Y gains the position here, but he's got a bit deep for 8, and Mirko looks to the outside to inside. He tries to get the cut back, but he's not able to find it as S2Y holds the position. Now we're Mirko try and find a way into turn 10. He's going to look for it as the Italian driver. He's on the inside there, and then side by side through turn 10. But remember, it goes back to a left-hander after this. They go into X corner. S2Y is that inside line, and I think Mirko's going to have to back out for this and look for the cutback. He looks for it, but S2Y puts his car exactly where the cutback line would be. And as they now come down the hill towards Puon corner, I do not think Mirko's going to be able to find the way through, but he's got to try and stay as close as possible and try to prevent S2Y from capitalising on what is his stronger pace. As S2Y gets it wrong there through Puon, you could see he rode a little too high on the AstroTurf, and as they make their way down, it's the case that Mirko's just not able to capitalise on the Polish driver's minor mistake. And as a result, as they now come through the right into left combination, he goes a bit deep, but I think S2Y will now start to open that gap up and pull away, as we see behind the RTA driver of Momo is starting to fall into the clutches of Marco after being passed by the GTD driver Gigiro only moments ago, making their way through Stablo 1 once again, and the Belgian really struggling for grip right now. And as we look at that telemetry data, you can see the rear tyres now starting to enter that heavy graining phase. He goes a bit wide there out to Stablo 2, and this is Marco's opportunity. Marco's going to be on the outside, however, as they go up towards Blanchimont here. Will he be able to find a way through? Momo tucks in behind. He realises the Belgian, he realises there is no way to come back right now as they make their way through the left-hander, and as they come through here and charge up towards what is the bus stop chicane, will there be a comeback? I don't think so. I think he's too far back, and I think Marco has got the move done as they make... Oh, and he goes for it very late on the brakes here, and I think that was a bit too late on the brakes there for Marco to be able to react to that, and Marco taking a bit of a hit on the side of the car, and now Greco and Bart are right there as they go on to their final lap there, and I think the stewards may be taking a look at that one as they go round for one final tour of the circuit in race number 2, and we see Greco looking for the move here versus Momo into La Source, but he's had his nose cut off a little bit there as Momo takes the defensive line across the front, and now they make their way in the long run up towards Uruj and Radion. Meanwhile, race leader, he's 1.6 seconds clear of Seidel. He's lost a little bit of time on the last lap. Rebels then P2. He's got S2Y chasing after him. Mirko in P4. Gigiro in P5, then we've got Marco in P6. Momo, meanwhile, he's got Greco all over the back of him as we ride on board with Momo right now, and we can see Greco getting closer and closer. He's going to be made to go to the outside here. It's a drag race up towards Les Combes, and as they make their way across, it's going to be the case that Greco tries to go all the way round, but RTA Momo goes heavy on the brakes here, and as they make their way through the corner side by side, keep it clean, lads, as Greco just goes a little bit sideways. He gets a bit too much oversteer, and he loses out, and he loses the ideal line through turns 8 and 9, as they make their way through. It was a good attempt from the Belgian, but his fellow countrymen held him off for the time being. As we see, meanwhile, Bart versus Bax. Well, Bart's in P9, but Bax is all on the offensive right now as they go through turn number 10. And as they come through here and head into X corner, we can see Bart having to worry about the driver behind as much as trying to close that driver in front, but Bax taking on the bollards there as they make their way through X and losing out the time. But meanwhile, we look back up to our battle for P3. We see S2I just holding off Mirko for the time being, and Mirko doing everything he can right now to really close that gap up. I just do not think he's got enough, and S2I makes an error somewhere, but we know that S2I is very consistent here. He is a brick wall fortitude when it comes to consistency, and Mirko, to be fair, has not put a foot wrong either way, but both of these drivers right on the edge right now of what is possible as they make their way through Stablo 1 and into Stablo 2, and our race leader really strong. I think he's on critical fuel Seidel right now as Revels is closing up to him here, and the Honey drivers will want to make this a 1-2, but you can see S2Y is just in there as well, and as they make their way up towards the timing line here, as they come towards Blanchimont firstly and then to bus stop before the finish line, who's going to be the winner? Will Seidel and Rebels have enough fuel? That will be the big question as they come through towards bus stop here. Into the heavy braking zone they go, and it will be Seidel who takes the brakes first, and as they make their way through the corner, he's going to come through the left-hander here, and as he completes his final lap, it will be Honey Seidel 87 who takes the win in race number 2 ahead of Rebels there. S2Y P3, Mirko P4, Gugero P5, Marco P6. He just he loses it. He runs out of fuel at the end, and it is Greco comes over in P6, Momo in P7, Bart in P8, Marco P9, Bax in P10, Zabrino P11. Rules will come home in P12 in the end as he makes his way up towards that timing line right now. He's just coming through bus stop. The Mexican driver having a very difficult second race is the GTMX driver as he comes out of the final corner here. And then we've got the best part of what is 12 seconds to Ibisimo as he makes his way through the final corner here. And we'll be looking to come back in the second half of tonight's races. Crossing that finish line, then the Italian. Congratulations to all of our drivers, but to our race winner in particular, Seidel 87 from Team Honey from France. Brilliant racing action all the way through and through there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you'll agree. But here are your race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. Seidel 87 from Team Honey taking the win in the end, 1.3 seconds clear of his teammate Rebels. And then S2Y BKI taking P3 for his team, for the Team BR, the Polish driver, in that P3 position, only 1.6 seconds off our race winner. Mirko DK arriving late, of course, taking part in his first race tonight in race number 2. And the CBR driver there racing for Team INCR, picking up a P4. A brilliant effort from him. Unfortunate to miss out on P3. And our top 5 being rounded off by the GTD driver of Gugero 79 there. 3.4 seconds off of our race winner. The Italian racing, of course, for what is Team GTD. A fantastic result. The rest of our field, WSR's Greco, RTA's Momo 87, PRT's Bart 43, TSA Marco in P9, Bax in P10 for GTPL, Zabanero 13 for HKRT in P11, GTMX's Rules in P12, and Ibsimo 91 CBR from what is Team INCR in P13. We had the disconnection, of course, of our Polish driver. It was KRT Kuba in the race because of the difficulties in getting started. So Kuba will be rejoining us in race number 3. But we'll have a qualifying session before that, of course. So we are going to be taking a 10-minute break right now, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back at approximately what will be 21:56 according to the clock in the top right corner. So 56 minutes to 10, we'll be back to bring you everything that's happening in qualifier race, the qualifier session number 2, and also races 3 and 4. Do not go anywhere, you will not want to miss it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for the build-up towards the second qualifying session and then races 3 and 4. So just a reminder, what is the second qualifying session? Much like the first qualifying session, except rather than having 15 laps to determine who is going to be on pole for race number 3, instead we will have 6 minutes instead. So instead of the 15-minute period where you get multiple laps, 6 minutes means you only get 2 laps, and that can really flip the tables and cause some drivers who take some time to prepare the ultimate qualifying lap. Now they don't have that time available. Instead they've got to do it out the pits and absolutely nail it, and it could change the starting order of the field considerably and the complexion of the field for race 3 and subsequently race number 4. Race 3 that follows will be another sprint, 4 laps long, and then it will be race number 4, which will be reverse grid based on the results of race number 3, another 13-lap race with that pit stop, which would expect much like what we saw in race 2, and well, all of our drivers at that point will be very tired as well, so the endurance factor will be kicking in, the stamina factor will be kicking in. You've got to be in it to win it throughout the entire night of racing. Now, to confirm with respect to our drivers so far, I should point out that based on the results that we've had over the first 2 races, of course subject to any stewards' inquiries, we do have a breakaway leader in terms of this group at the moment, and it is our driver who came into this group lowest ranked in terms of ELO going into tonight, and that is Honey's Seidel 87 with 2 wins out of 2 in this group so far. He is currently leading the group in terms of the points gained today, and he is currently being chased by Gt3 79 and the Italian driver here, who's doing a phenomenal job with that 3rd place in race number 1 and that 5th place in race number 2. Great consistency shown from the Italian, and he is being hunted by PRT's Bart 43, and we can see the Polishman here who is trying to do everything to close him down right now, but with that 2nd place in race number 1 and 8th place in race number 2, particularly that 8th place has held him back a bit in being able to be in that P2 position. Then in P4 we've got BR's S2Y, and we'll see S2Y, I believe he's still parked in the pits as it currently stands, or if not he will be readying up very shortly. There's S2Y, we can just see him there, he's readied himself up. But S2Y in P4 overall, the 7th in race number 1 and the 3rd in race number 2. And then round off our top 5 in the provisional standings from this lobby so far, we have got WSR's Greco. Greco, of course, being the Belgian driver here, who with that P4 in race number 1 and P6 in race number 2, 2 very consistent results, and we look forward to seeing what Greco is able to do in the other 2 races. Of course, all of our drivers here have got it all on the line. Some drivers who've had a pretty rough start to events, particularly Arules, the Mexican driver from GTMX, with a P13 and P12, but also we've got to consider our other drivers such as RP. Whereas our P11 man at the moment of Ib Simo, who'll be looking to do everything to get himself back into the proceedings. Of course, they've had some difficult races to begin with, some of our drivers, but it could all turn around starting with this qualifying session. But as we can see there, our stewards getting ready to get proceedings underway once again. And when they do, plenty more racing lies ahead. As back shows us how to go downhill through Pawn, sideways. We're just waiting on Arules to ready up, and once the Mexican driver has readied up, we will be go, go, go. Just checking in with our stewards to see if there's any information being passed to us. I do not think there is. No, nothing from any of our stewards at the moment. They're just waiting for Arules to get himself readied up. So that is what is causing us a slight delay. The Mexican driver there just not ready. You see him making his way out of Lacom and heading down towards turn number 10. Back's there looking very fast up the hill. Okay, we are going to be getting a start because the GTMX driver is not in his pit box. We are starting and he will be excluded from qualifying, and I believe that also means race number 3. Unless he's just readied up, so we are go, ladies and gentlemen. We will be going with all 14 drivers for the second qualifying session as soon as we get the countdown. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. 6 minutes. Who's going to be on pole? Let's find out. Now, of course, remember, with only 6 minutes in this qualifying session, it is going to be very, very edgy in terms of how much our drivers push, because you only get 2 laps effectively, perhaps even 1 if you have a disaster of a warm-up lap and you can't get clear traffic on your first flying lap. But that will really start to throw a major bit of uncertainty into our drivers, and I would expect everybody here will be looking to charge around the circuit as rapidly as possible. Although some drivers may play the risk of parking themselves in the pits and coming out very late, and we've just seen that. I think that was Gt3 Rs going back into the pits to give himself some breathing room. Indeed he has, and Harule's here just staying in the pits right now, I think waiting to get some space. Perhaps they're banking on a single qualifying lap or going very late for their qualifying laps right now, as you see everybody else clustering up on the Kimmel Straight and trying to get around as quickly as possible here. Remembering a lap time on average is around the 2:31 mark, so as a result our drivers will get across that timing line roughly what is 3 minutes and 20 seconds remaining, and that's when they'll get the 2 laps. But as they all come flying through right now, we can see the 2 Polish drivers here of GTPL, Bax and KRT Kuba, staying nose to tail and flying around. But meanwhile, Seidel, the fastest driver in the race trim so far, the Honey driver here, is doing a fantastic job of getting himself some clear space and getting himself right to the front of the order as he makes his way down into Puon corner right now. Getting himself good breathing room as we see Momo87 here with Mirko DK behind him. Mirko, to be fair, despite missing out on race number 1, has done a fantastic job in getting himself back up to speed in race 2, and I expect he's going to qualify quite well here. I expect a top 6 for Mirko DK in this qualifying session, because he has shown great pace and the ability to compete with some of the faster drivers here. Not quite the top pace in the race trim, but I imagine perhaps he's got a little bit more under the hood in qualifying as they make their way down here. Meanwhile, we see Kuba here at the back of the slipstream train as they all come out of campus, but he goes a little bit wide and hooks onto the exit curb of turn 14, and that will cost him a little bit of warm up there in the front right tyres. The pressure will be dropped out the tyre slightly. But meanwhile, we can see Bart here in P9 making his way, well, P9 in terms of the order right now, not in terms of qualifying, because nobody has set a lap, making his way a little bit around Stavlo at a delayed pace compared to Zabarino ahead of him. As he makes his way around right now, we pan our camera to our race leader, Seidel, not our race leader, sorry, our leader over the races so far, and in this qualifying session, he will be the first driver to take us onto a qualifying lap. And let's give you the perspective of Seidel as he comes out the final corner then and charges down towards the source to give us our opening flying lap. So building up through the gears then, heading up towards the top end of 4th gear, braking into La Source, braking nice and early there and rotating the car on apex in 2nd gear before, as soon as he goes through the apex, getting on that throttle. As we see, Kuba has jumped into the pits to put on a fresh pair of tyres. I think Kuba wants to give himself some space as well. Coming through turn 2 and now into the Uruj to Radion complex here of 3, 4 and 5. You can see it going from right to left as best as possible here, and nice and sharp on the steering inputs, but I think a little bit of a cut there over the brow of the hill. Now I'm not sure if that's going to be classified as a track limits cut there. It may be close to it. Not quite. He's got away with it, has Seidel, and that means he's going to have the top end speed here, heading up to roughly 168 miles an hour into the braking zone for Lecomte, and coming all the way down from top gear to 3rd gear there before flowing through, now getting ready to pounce on the throttle as he comes into turn number 9. Coming through the corner, of course, getting on that power as soon as he feels the car start to connect with grip, and now coming down the hill towards turn 10 here, braking nice and early, letting the car trail its way in under braking. In 3rd gear here, staying in a higher gear from what we've seen other drivers who've been using 2nd gear. Seidel using 3rd gear through turn 10, avoiding an additional upshift into X corner, and that may gain him some time overall as he comes out of X and now heads down towards what is Puon corner. Now coming down the hill here into the braking zone, a delayed braking zone here, but you can see coming into 4th, he's not going to go down to 3rd. The car just sliding a little bit sideways there across the apex and wide, and as he makes his way down the hill, he's going to gradually build up that throttle. He does so and heads down towards campus, looking for that 100 metre board, coming down from 5th to 3rd once once again here and trailing the car in, letting the rear end gradually flow around before building up that throttle and then snap steering the car to the left hand side. You can see the rear end, the momentum switch in the car, the momentum transfer, and that's what Seidel and all the other drivers are trying to do. They're trying to get that momentum transfer to occur instantaneously as they go from 13 to 14. Goes a bit wide there and loses time through Stavlo 1 and actually loses a lot of momentum through Stavlo 2. He could add a bit more momentum there, we reckon, as he now makes his way up towards Blanchimont corner here. But Seidel really pushing the limits of this car, and he knows he's got to nail these qualifying laps, so he only gets the 2. This opening lap, I do not think it's going to be the best we are going to see in this session, but it's up there. It's a strong lap. As we see, he goes a little bit wide there in towards Blanchimont corner, but does get it nailed quite nicely as he now makes his way down towards the bus stop chicane here. Heavy on the brakes, coming all the way down to second gear, hitting that apex curve very nicely of 19, now flicking it round 420. This is going to be our opening flying lap here, and what's it going to be? I think it's going to be a 2-minute 30.1, and sorry, 2-minute 31.4. It is. I was going to say a 2-minute 31, and he's crossed that line. What about Momo as they've crossed the line? They've had to abort their lap. Meanwhile, Mirko with what is a 2:32.6, as we see there. Greco setting a good lap, but then GTPL's backs were 2:31.3, the fastest of anybody so far. More laps coming in, and it looks as though the Italian here of Gigiro has set purple sectors in Sector 1 and Sector 2. Now, as he comes out the final corner, what's this going to be from the Italian? This is a really fast lap. It's a 2:30.45. That's 8.5 tenths clear of anyone else. The Italian is flying. Well, there's a reason why I'm going to nickname him the Italian Stallion for this qualifying session, because he is absolutely prancing around this circuit right now, and I do not think anybody is going to be able to compete with that. As we see, meanwhile, for our drivers further back, we've got Kuba who's just gone on to his qualifying lap, and we see that Harules has just come to the end of his qualifying session. He only got 1 lap in, and it was a 2:34.4. Not a good lap for the Mexican driver, and that is a bit of a disaster, as now he's got no way of improving from that position. It's going to be a tough one. As we see Gigiro here really strong in that qualifying session, and I do think for him right now he can perhaps back off a little bit, or will he choose to, as he makes his way around right now. But I can see you guys in the chat, Mr. Peartree7 there, and also GTD Tavleri 82 celebrating that lap, and fans supporting Gigiro as he makes his way down. What a phenomenal lap, or as they refer to him as GG there in the chat. Great nickname for him. I think we'll call him GG from this point onwards, or for his full name. As we see here that we've got Seidel in P3 right now. He's only a 10th off of Bax, but what can Bax do to close up to the Italian right now? I do not think there's going to be a response. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Just need to take a quick sip of water as we see Bax right now making his way through Stavlo 2 here. And of course, everybody on their final lap now, if they've not already completed their final qualifying lap, and coming roaring down towards Blanchimont here. And meanwhile, Marco, well, he's got a little bit of traffic in the form of Zabanero here, and these two getting a bit touchy. And I do think it's the case that Marco feels he's being compromised right now. He's in P4, but he's only 200ths off a Seidel as Marco goes into the runoff area there. That's going to be a time limit penalty. That's going to be a track limits penalty, and Zabanero doing the same. Both drivers being held up by one another there and making respective mistakes. As we see Seidel has crossed the line, he did not improve. What about Bax here, who's got the double toe as he crosses the line? Well, Honey Rebels improves and Bax improves, but only by 2 tenths. Bax is not able to take that potential pole position, as we do see there Marco moving out of the way on the finish line, as we see a lot of times coming in, but a lot of drivers really struggling for time here. S2Y does improve to a 2:32.639. And that gets him up into what is P9, but not too many improvements here. A lot of drivers very close in their qualifying order, and I believe we've only got one more driver. Well, we've got PRT Bart here, who's absolutely roaring around right now, but he's not going to get another lap in, surely, as we see where it's the case that Rules here, well, he's off a lap, and then we've got Kuba across the line in P5. Kuba going late there. A very good lap from the Polish driver, a 2:31.452, and it was only 6 thousandths in the end of a P4 man, TSA Marco. I think Kuba really left it late and made it show, but pole position in the end going to the Italian of GTD's Gigiro 79. A phenomenal lap, a really phenomenal lap in the fact that just being able to put in such pace in a single lap. He didn't need to improve in the second one, and as a result now he will take that pole position. And now it's time for race number 3, the second sprint race, 4 laps. So as we pan down to the grid here, it'll be another rolling start, of course, and we see it's GTD Kagero lining up on pole with Bax behind him there in P2, Seidel in P3, Marco P4, Kubo and Greco on that third row, Ipsamo and also Rebels there on the fourth row. But I do imagine that for Seidel, he's going to do everything he can to come up the Italian ahead of him early on, as will Bax. They will know they need to get ahead of him early on here. As our drivers get the rolling start procedure underway, of course, remember, we get started at the GT starting line, which is coming out of turn 2 as they go underneath the billboard to head into Rouge Radion, and it will be the Italian here, GTD Giro, who takes us away as they make their way down towards turn 1. And you can see here, everybody concertinaing together into that rolling start procedure. They will all be nose to tail, all in the line here as they get ready to go racing. This gives our drivers who are trying to make their way through the bus stop chicane the opportunity to close up. As we do see there, by the looks of the rear picture, I think that looks to be there. That is Mirko DK, who's just fallen back a little bit. But now we wait for Kigiro to take us away. And it's go, go, go. He's gone dead on time. And as they make their way out towards Rouge Radion, we can see everybody nose to tail. And the Italian has had a very good start. Now, if he can nail the run over the hill here, he's going to be quite safe in the lead as they make their way through. Bax there running a little bit wide, but we can see already Seidel on the attack. He's going after the Polishman, who's had a poor run out of the first 3 corners. And as they now come down towards Lacom, you can see Bax immediately back it out here. But will he go late on the brakes? It's going to be a battle on cold tyres here into Lacom for the first time of asking. And it's the case that Bax loses out, as we can see that Kuba here has to defend versus Greco. Greco cannot find a way around the outside, but everybody comes together right now. No major changes apart from the battle for P2 as they all come out of Lacom and head down towards turn number 10 right now. The field fighting for position front to end, and as we see them make their way through turn number 10, it is the case right now that everybody coming through, and Mirko in that P9 position, and he's having to try and hold off S2Y right now. He's had a poor qualified session, but he's looking very competitive in race trim as they now come through X quarter, and we can see Momo there going a little bit wide out of X as they come down the hill for the first time of asking into Puro quarter. Mirko holding off Ipsimo as they come around, and we ride on board here with the P9 man as he comes down, and S2Y goes a little bit deep there, and as they come around through the corner, you can see it's now Bart who's going to go around the outside here of his fellow countryman. Will he be able to do it? That's the big question as the camera begins to pan round, and Bart goes all the way round. He's on the inside into 14. Bart, they're very brave on the brakes, and I would not, in my personal years of racing, attempted it around the outside into 13 on cold tyres. But there you go, that shows you why these guys are professionals in their disciplines as they make their way through Stavlo 1 for the first time here, and as they come around to Stavlo 2, it's a case right now, everybody pushing to try and gain places as quickly as possible. As we see our race leaders, meanwhile, with Seidel, who is closing up on Kigiro as they make their way up in towards Blanchimont here. They're all using the maximum extremity of track limits here to get as much rotation into the corner. You can see all taking to take 2 wheels off of the circuit and 2 right on that white line, but the Italian holds on to leave for time in as everybody comes down into the heavy braking zone. And we see here if Simo going on the inside of Rebels here, and he's got the move as the Italian, but he goes deep here, and he has to now cut a defensive apex into 20, but he gets it done to hold on. So after 1 lap, it's Gagiro leading by 0.6 of a second ahead of Seidel. Bax in P3, Marco in P4, Kuba in P5, Greco in P6, and then we've got a small gap of what is 1.8 seconds to Simo in P7. Then we've got Rebels battling with Mirko DK in P8 and P9. Then we've got Bart in P10, S2Y in P11, Momo in P12, and Zabadir in P13, and then Jarules in P14 with a very difficult start to this race. But as our race leaders make their way through Rouge Radion for the second time, we can see Seidel losing out there, having a poor run this time through the corners. Our race leader holding on. And meanwhile, Bax, he's made a mistake. He's got Marco closing up on him. And the question will be, what will Marco do? Will he go for the move with the Mexican, or will he wait until later on in the lap or the next lap? I think he's going to wait. He's too far back, but Bax trying to burn that penalty as soon as possible, of course, wary of the fact that Marco is inching closer and closer every metre of surface they travel as he makes his way through it. And Bax there getting a bit of snap over still on the corner through turn 9 as they come down to turn 10. Will Marco be able to find a way through? He looks for it. He looks for an attempt to the inside, but Marco not able to find it as Bax closes the door. But you can see the Mexican really on the offensive right now. now as they make their way out of what is turn 9, out of turn 10 and into 11. Through X they come, and now down the hill towards Puon. Here you can see Marco inching himself ever closer once again, really putting that pressure on nice and early. Is the Mexican driver versus the Polishman as they make their way through Puon. You can see just rise a little high on the curves, just unsettled Bax just not able to calm it down right now, and this is what Marco wants as they make their way down towards 13 and 14. Into campus they go, and I think Marco could be looking for the move into Blonchimon here as they make their way down. Meanwhile, further back here we can see Ipsimo hold on to P7. He's changed around with Mirko DK now hold off Rebels, hold on to that P8 position is the Italian, working with his teammate here to try and bring home good points to the team as they make their way out of 14 and now head up in towards 15 and 16. That's the two Stavlos for those who want it in name as they make their way through the corners then and now head around. We can see that Bart there in P10 trying to close up as well as meanwhile our race leaders continue around, and Gigiro leading now by 1.2 seconds in the right towards Blonchman. A good run here. Meanwhile Bax, he's got Marco all over the back of him here, and Marco's going to definitely be looking competitive into bus stop. They go into the left hander here, Bax sliding through, Marco leaving any slide just nice and stable. They come up towards the braking zone into the bus stop. Will there be a move from Marco? I think he's a bit too far back. He's not able to find the move for the time being as they make their way to the right to left combination and now head around towards lap number 3. Only 2 more laps to go here, and you can see Bax doing everything he can to hunt down the Polishman, to hold off the Mexican. Ahead behind him is the Polishman as we get everything wrong there and then some, as we were our race leader, where it's the case that Gigiro is being reeling a little bit over the course of that last lap as he's made a bit of a mistake I think into turn 1, but Seidel not able to close up enough to be in the slipstream as they make their way around up towards the Rouge and Radion. Meanwhile, Kuba, the KRT driver in P5 right now, doing a good job of keeping Greco behind him as they make their way into left to right to left combination here. But you can see Greco really on the offensive right now, trying to attack. But he gets it a little bit sideways there, coming over the crest of the hill. And as a result, Greco losing out in the hunt in P6 as Ipsimo now starts to close up a little bit in the run down the Kimmel straight. He won't be close enough here, but speaking about close enough, we can see Bart versus S2Y here. The two Polish drivers going nose to tail as they make their way in towards Lake Cobb. Backing out was Bart there to give up the position and burn the penalty, but we can see Mirko versus Rebels. Rebels tries to go around the outside and he's not able to do it this time as Mirko DK defends it well into turn 8 and through 9 they come, and we can see Rebels all over the back of him right now as he looks to the inside. Does Rebels coming down to the braking zone and he's on there, he can't be shut out as Mirko tries to squeeze him as much as possible to the apex, but he goes wide, and as a result Rebels here comes alongside. But as they make their way to X now, it's going to be the switch back here as Bart gets it a little bit wrong in P11 behind. Mirko's got a Rebels trying to go around the outside, but Rebels very brave as we see S2Y now looks at the move. They're trying to make it 3 wide down into Puon corner here, but there's only one way through. We can see that Mirko holds on for the time being as behind him S2Y goes to the move on Rebels and he gets it on the inside there, and it's the case that S2Y have a brilliant move. We see Bart coming through as well as they all come charging through. The Polish drivers are coming in. It's 3 wide down into the corner, and as they make their way through campus here, we can see it's Bart who's gone to the inside as S2Y is pushed wide, and as a result now Bart gains the position. But what a cracking battle between these 4 drivers as there is a little bit of contact, but I'm sure you won't mind it, ladies and gentlemen, as they make their way to Stavlo right now, and as they come through we can see Rebels there battling hard versus Mirko DK. Neither of them want to give up the position. Every point's critical here and Bart's being allowed to break away. Meanwhile up front I can tell you our race leader is still holding on to that lead by 1.7 seconds. Seidel in P2, Bax in P3. Marco has fallen back a little bit over the course of this lap. The gap is now 6 tenths, whereas previously it was 3 tenths. And it's all spaced out a bit for these guys. But meanwhile, you can see for Mirko DK versus Rebels as they make their way down towards the bus stop here. Will there be a move? Rebels having to go defensive here versus S2Y who's looking for the move around the outside to inside line here. Rebels goes very deep on the brakes here and it hasn't quite worked out, but as they make their way out the corner out bus stop to go onto the final lap, S2Y gets the move done there. A very brave attempt and he's made it work as S2Y as they go onto the final lap of this sprint race right now. Lap 4 of 4, and they've got plenty more time to try and go for those positions, but not long left to be fair as we see Gigiro here making his way across that timing line right now and heading around for Uruguay Radio, doing everything right. Is the Italian driver here. He's only got 1 lap to go, and I think he is in safe hands right now as meanwhile Bax holding off Marco for the time being. Marco not in the slipstream zone this time, so he will not gain the extra straight line speed down towards Lake Com, and this is what Bax will have wanted. Kuba in P5, he's still got Greco and Ipsimo chasing after him. Both drivers of course closing up to hit the toe as they make their way to Lake Com here. No change Meanwhile, further back, we can see Bart in a comfortable position. Meanwhile, it's the case that Mirko has broken away from Rebels. Rebels versus S2Y. Rebels on the outside, S2Y on the inside here as they go to Lakecom. S2Y will get ahead for the time being. Will he park it on Apex? He does park it on Apex. As a result, he blocks Rebels from trying to cut back on the inside of him as they make their way through turn 9 and head up towards turn 10. A brilliant move by the Polishman there to hold on to the position versus Rebels as they now come down towards turn number 10 for the final time. And as they do here, no change on that. S2Y goes a little bit deep, but he does get the better sling out the corner there in terms of the momentum he gains on the exit as they now come into X. But meanwhile, in that hunt for P3, we can see that Marco is starting to close up a little bit down through Puon. As meanwhile, Kuba has got Greco and Ipsimo all over the back of Ipsimo under major pressure here as they come down towards campus. Now, will Ipsimo be able to go for the move versus Greco? I doubt it at this point. I do not think it's going to happen. I think Greco's got the line and he's also got the speed here. But you can imagine if Kuba cannot pull away from these guys, then they're both going to look for that attempt at the position going into the bus stop chicane. As we see, Kuba gets it a bit wrong there. Out of 14 now, will Greco go for it? Not yet. He's not close enough. And he knows if he goes for it now, he's going to be vulnerable to be double back passed by both Wes Kuba and also Ipsimo in the run up towards bus stop. But you can see these three very close together right now, all trying to find little ways past one another for Kuba to hold the guys behind him back as they surge up towards what is Blodgemon. They build up the speed. But meanwhile, as he makes his way down towards the bus stop chicane, he's led this one from the start after what was a phenomenal qualifying lap that nobody was able to even come close to. And as he comes through the final corner, it will be the Italian of Gigero 79 from GTD who takes the win in the sprint race that is race number 3 ahead of Seidel, and then it will be Bax in P3 holding off Marco in the end, and then in the battle for P5 Kuba just holds off Greco and Ipsimo there, and then it is Bart 43 who will cross that finish line in P8 ahead of Mirko DK, then Huddy Rebels in P10, S2Y in the end in P11. He lost out to Rebels towards the end. Zabadero in P12, and then it'll be Derulas, the GTX driver here, coming home in what is P13 with a time penalty, but that's not going to compromise his results. And then Momo, how it's gone horribly wrong for the RTA driver in race number 3, but that means he will start on pole for the purposes of race number 4, the feature race, to end our proceedings for tonight. RTA's Momo 87 crosses the line in P14. Congratulations to all of our drivers, but a special congratulations to our winner, the Italian of Gigero 79 from GTD. What a brilliant race, and it has really set the tempo for the final race of tonight. But here are your race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries, of course. It is the case that GTD's Gigero 79 win in the end by 2.6 seconds, a phenomenal margin in that race over Honey's Seidel 87 and GTPL's Bax round off the podium. TSA Marco and KLT Kuba round off our top 5, and then the rest of the finishing order was WSR's Greco ahead of CBR Ipsimo 91, PRT's Bart 43, CBR's Mirko DK, Honey Rebels complete our top 10, and then BRS2Y, Zabanero 13, GTMX's Rules, and RTA's Momo 87 completing our order. And it was our race winner who set the fastest lap on lap number 3, almost matching his pole time in the qualifying session, a 2:30.799 from Gigero. Just shows you how much pace he had in the car in that race. A phenomenal drive, and I can only imagine what he's now going to try and accomplish in the second race of this second half of tonight's proceedings. Of course, this will mean that we've only got one more race to go as all of our drivers now get ready to go racing. And we very quickly put these results into our points calculator right now as we wait to go one more time. There we get the changeover for the race, so we will be very shortly going racing. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, well, we've had our final time of day change and everybody is now being asked to ready up as we get the reverse grid ready to go here And we do see it looks as though we are getting the pit glitch for some of our drivers. We may be getting a reformed lobby to wrap up proceedings as we are hearing reports of issues. And we see that ATR Corsa saying a mega driving from both Bax and Kuba. Indeed, fantastic driver driving from both of the Polish drivers there, with Bax picking up the P3 and Kuba picking up what was the P5. Two very good results. But I can tell you right now that going into the final race of this one, it is Honey Seidel who is still holding on to the provisional lead of the Group F lobby in round number 4. But also on top of that, now in P2 is Gigiro, and he's really built up a lot of momentum with that win. And I wonder if he'll be able to perhaps get even closer to Seidel come the end of this one. Of course, Seidel will have the advantage of starting ahead of him, but it's not by too many places, as everybody just readies up, and we will be going racing any moment now for what is the 13-lap feature race of race number 4. And as all of our drivers get ready here, we're waiting for that countdown. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen, the countdown to the final race of tonight for Group F in round number 4. 13 laps, a reverse grid. Who's going to be the winner? Let's find out. We pan down to the grid then, and we can see it's ATR's Momo87 who starts on pole. Sorry, RTA, I should say, is Momo who starts on pole. And then it is Rules who starts on P2. Zabanero in P3, BRS2Y in P4. And then we go down the order. How will our leading drivers starting at the back be able to cut their way through the order this time? Now, of course, we will have that manual single file rolling start as they make their way around here, and it will be for Momo 87 to take us away, as we do have a problem, and it is Rules who has not pulled off the line here, and it has caused our pack to bunch up in this rolling start. And I think for Momo, he needs to back it off, as we see Rules has simply aborted the race. Now, what will Momo do here? He's just carrying on at a pace right now as everybody else has concerted together here, and surely Momo is going to wait for everybody to catch up here. As you can see, he is doing so right now. He's just inching his way along the line. So we have lost the Mexican driver Rules, and we will be going racing, I think, with 13 drivers, unless we get a word from our race organisers here to back things off, as we do see a restart. A restart is being called, ladies and gentlemen, so we will be aborting this one, and then we will try to go once again here. So a little bit of drama there, but we are just waiting for that restart now. It wouldn't be the final race tonight without a little bit of technical drama. But we are just waiting for Honey Rebels to quit the circuit. Oh no, it was Honey Seidel, my apologies. In fact, we have got multiple cars parked up. We have got a broken lobby by the looks of things. So we are going to be forming a new lobby to get the final race underway. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen. It seems that the technical gremlins have returned one last time, and we're just waiting for the lobby to be reformed. Whilst we're waiting, of course, this gives all of our drivers a little bit of a breather. Some will be more eager to go racing compared to others who will want the preparation time. But we just have to wait patiently right now for things to get underway. We're just waiting for the lobby to appear. Should not be too long now, normally 1 more minute, if that. All right, there's the reform lobby. We're just joining it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we have got the reformed lobby. We'll be expecting everybody to ready up so we can then set the grid for the final race of tonight. Be patient. I do appreciate you've all been very patient so far. I'm very grateful for that. We've got only about 2 to 3 minutes to go before we do get underway racing once again. As we see what Greco takes to the circuit. As we are waiting right now, of course, this gives our drivers a little bit of time to get themselves some final practice laps in, as we do see 13 of our 14 drivers have readied up so far. We are expecting 1 more to join, of course. See Mirko and Usama there having a little bit of a moment together. We've got 13 drivers at the moment. I think we might have lost Harules completely. I'm not 100% sure here. So we are giving it 3 minutes for the Mexican driver to join us. If not, we will be getting underway. So we just wait now. All our drivers, of course, wanting to go racing as well. Nothing else from our stewards. And checking in with you guys and girls in the chat. Not seeing for anything new from yourselves. Completely understandable. You're probably all absolutely waiting to go racing indeed. I am right now as well. Eager to see whether this Italian driver here, Okigiro, can make his way up through the order. Or will it be Seidel, the man chasing after him, who's going to be able to make it 3 wins out of 4. As we see, the manual grid is being set right now by our organisers. See these two getting some practice battling one another here. I think we are going to see quite a bit of battling between these two. But remember what Seidel did in the opening feature race in race number 2. A huge amount of fuel saving from the Frenchman, which saw him jump all the way from approximately P10 up to P2 in the pits. And that was phenomenal. Will he do it again? Will other drivers catch on to what he's trying to do? Or will we have to do something different to find some more magic here? We will wait and see. But I think that opening stint, fuel saving, is the name of the game. And will he be able to pull it off? That is the big question. What about Bax? Of course, Bax would love to get a solid result, given the fact that he's had very consistent, well, he's had mostly consistent results across the board so far. A 6th in race 1, a 10th in race 2, which was a bit down. Race 3, a 3rd place. Can he get himself another top 5 or even well inside the top 10 in this final race and make it 4 races in the top 10 on the bounce? We will wait and see. Beautiful looking livery there for the Polish driver's car as he makes his way down the hill right now. KRT driver doing a very, very good job there with the livery. You can see Mirko DK and Zabanero here having a little bit of fun, just racing nose to tail as they make their way down towards campus. And we're getting the confirmation, ladies and gentlemen. It will be 13 drivers. We will not have GTMX Relais participating in this final race of this evening, I believe. Yep, we've only got the 13 drivers, so it is going to be 13 out of 14, and we will be a go, go, go. As we can see, they make their way through. Relais not able to join in the end, so we will finish with 13 drivers as we get the countdown to race number 4. 13 laps, 13 drivers. Who's going to be the winner? Let's find out. So as we pan down to the grid for the rolling start, then we can see that on pole it is going to be RTA's Momo 87, Zabanero in P2, S2Y in P3, Rebels P4, Mirko DK in P5, and Bart 43 in P6. But watch out for our 2 drivers starting at the back. What can they do? Seidel and also Gigiro, how quickly will they come up through the field, or will it all be in the pits? As we get the rolling start procedure underway, everybody able to pull off the line this time, so no further technical issues or gremlins. We are going racing as Momo takes us around here. He will continue that rolling start as our drivers creep their way down towards the GT start line coming out to turn 2, and Momo will bunch the field up as they all go nose to tail here in the rundown. You can see Momo really slowing things down here, taking a different approach, getting everybody nice and close together before he starts doing any weaving here. And you can see the guys behind now really catching up nice and quickly here, and it's going to be a case the field's going to be really bunched up together in the run out of turn 2 and up the hill, and this will be great to see. Momo giving us exactly what everybody wants to see, a really heavily bunched up field. And as they make their way out of La Source then and head to turn 2, we wait for the Belgian to get us underway. And we are go, 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 but everybody knows when to go, and as a result, it's a very tight field as they make their way up the hill here. Remember, no overtaking allowed through Rouge and Radion. They all have to back it off until they get onto the Kemmel Straight, and Momo getting a good run there, but we can see Zabanero immediately under attack from S2Y as S2Y tries to go around the outside in the run down the Kemmel Straight. He's got those wipers active once again as well. That windshield must be absolutely chipped as they make their way down. The HKRT driver on the inside versus the BR driver. They go into the heavy braking zone for Lacom in the battle for P2 here, and Zabanero not going to lose the position. He holds on to it for now, and instead S2Y under major pressure from Mirko DK and Honey Rebels as they make their way through turn number 9. As they come through then down towards 10, you can see it's Mirko on the outside now, Rebels on the inside as they come down to the heavy braking zone. Seidel already making gains as we can see there Rebels in that P5. He's got ahead of Bart, but he can't get past Mirko. As behind, meanwhile, we can see Seidel being pushed wide a little bit by Bax. They give one another enough racing room, but Seidel having Bax come down his inside as Marco comes down the hill here through X, and meanwhile Seidel relegates himself back to P11. Gigero staying in P13 with Greco between himself and Seidel as they come down towards Pilon Corner here. And I think our winners from race number 3 are deciding to just simply stay in the slipstream of other cars and not lose time to leaders right now as they all make their way through the downhill run of Pilon up towards campus. But meanwhile, Momo's got Zabanero behind him still. We ride on board here with our race leader. That's RTA's Momo 87 as he makes his way through 14. And you can see the field behind him. He's going to use Zabanero as his rear guard as they make the way through. Of course, not racing for the same team. What the fact we're running with the RTA driver and we've got HKRT just behind. But you can see Zabanero, the Greek driver, just does not have the pace out of the corners compared to Momo. And if Momo can exploit this, what he can do is just give himself a nice window to gradually eke off into distance. Remember, all our drivers will need to fuel save to be able to get to the pit if they want to do 7 laps, unless they're going to do a short stop in terms, sorry, a short opening stint. But meanwhile, Zabanero here just trying to close up, as behind there you can see that Rebels is being under pressure from Bart, but behind them look at Kuba, who's trying to come through here as they all make their way in the run down towards bus stop. And it is that case that right now Kuba has got past his Simo, and Marco going to the inside, flicking to the inside there and going for the move, but Kuba knocked wide and Marco giving a tap on the back by Simo there. And I think Marco has had to make a snap evasive manoeuvre that's going to bunch this pack of field up for the battle for P7, but it releases our top 6. As we can see behind him, we've got 3 wide backs versus Simo versus Marco down into La Source. As they make their way into the brain zone, Simo holds in the middle and he takes the places back into P8 right now as all our drivers make their way through La Source. So after 1 lap, it's Momo leading ahead of Zabanero and S2Y, followed by Mirko DK, then Honey Rebels, then Bart, then Kuba, then Ipsimo, then it's Bax, Marco, Seidel, then it's Gigira, and then finally Greco as they make the way up the hill, our 13 drivers, and come around towards the Kemmel Straight once again here as they come out of Radion. And as they charge all the way down on the Kemmel Straight, you do have to imagine more moves can be expected here as our race leader just stays comfortable right now. But it's in those battles further back where we'll see things are up. If Simo having to defend versus Bax here, Bax goes to the inside, however, into Lacom, and if Simo not battling it too hard, but he just goes around the outside once again. If Simo very strong on those brakes versus Bax as they come through, and I think it's the case that right now Marco in that P10 position, and Kigiro getting past Seidel and holding on to P11 for the time being. The Honey driver here will tuck in behind Kigiro, and I think we'll go for the fuel saving technique. I think he'll know that he can't win this one on outright pace immediately. He needs to play the long game here like he did in race number 2. As they all come down the hill once again through Ix, and as they make their way in towards Puon Corner, and Giga holding on very nicely right now as the GTD driver, as meanwhile up front and Momo doing everything right so far, just holding a nice consistent 8.5 tenths gap to Zabanero, who has got S2Y all over the back of him. Now how long can Zabanero hold off S2Y before the BR driver manages to get through and then to put the pressure on for the race lead? S2Y would love to break through here, but remember he's also got to balance that fuel saving element. I think that's why S2Y is not coming through as yet. I think he's trying to simply pace himself to Zabanero and trying to use as much fuel saving here to get himself ahead of these guys from the pit stop. Because remember, for our race leader Momo, he doesn't have anybody to fuel save on, so that's why you're not seeing Momo break away as much as perhaps he could. He's probably doing a lot of short shifting and managing the gap to Zabanero to around 9.5 tenths right now to give himself the ability to save fuel like the guys behind him are doing. But meanwhile, we can see that Mirko DK holding on to P4. Bart chasing after him as Bart now is under pressure from Kuba and Rebels. And Rebels is going to go around the outside of Kuba here into what is into Blanchimont, but he's gone a little bit wide. I think there was a little bit of contact between himself and Kuba, and we can see he's held onto the inside there versus Kuba, but he's a little bit back. But he goes heavy on the brakes, but he does get the time penalty for running wide out of what was Blanchimont, but he'll burn that very rapidly, we reckon, as they make their way out of the final corner and head on to lap number 3. And the drag race continues between our battle for P6, 7 and 8 as they make their way down towards what is P into turn 1. That is La Source. We see Kuba going deep on the brakes, the inside here. Kuba sending a message of intent, which is I'm coming through. I don't care about you, as they make their way out of the corner here and charge round through turn 2. Of course, Kuba being a very respectful driver, but he's trying to get the message through to Rebels right now. Let me lead this. Let me chase after the guys ahead. Stop holding us up. And as a result, Kuba is now free. And you can see immediately Rebels backing off and burning his penalty as they make their way over the crest of the hill here and head down onto the Kemmel Straight once again. Meanwhile, in that battle for P2, we can see Zabanero here has had a good run versus S2Y, but Momo has really opened that gap up. On that last lap, Momo was the fastest of anybody with a 2:33.142, and I do think for our race leader, perhaps he's deciding to go all in rather than worry about mass fuel saving right now. Perhaps he's just going to try and get a gap and then hold on to the position he comes out the pits in, knowing that perhaps he will drop down a place or two. But meanwhile, behind we see Mirko DK here. He's got everybody behind him and the pressure in the P4 position, and as we ride on board here with the Italian driver, what can he do from this position as Bart gets that tighter line through 10, where you can see Mirko holding holding well into turn 11 into X corner. Further back we can see all our drivers coming through there, and as we look a little bit further back you can see Bax versus Marco right now. Marco, the Mexican driver here, trying to get past Bax in the run through X, and as they come down the hill here towards what is Puon corner, you can see that Marco all over the back of Bax here, and Seidel has found his way past Kigiro, but I think that's happened in the run down the Kimmel Straight towards Lake Com, and I think the reason for that is simply put, they're just changing places because of the fuel saving and the slipstream, so do not expect this to be a major change in the race in order for the rest of the race. I think these two are trying to work together, whilst they are rivals in this race and they're not racing for the same team, they're teaming up temporarily just to help one another gain in the pit stop phase, and that's the critical thing. You have to work with the drivers around you, or try and get the drivers around you to work with you if you want to gain in these strategic races, because you can push hard, but if you push hard it comes at the cost of fuel and later pace in the race, particularly on that tyre management as they make their way around. Meanwhile, our race leader Momo doing everything right so far, 1.5 seconds up the road from Zabanero, but having a poor run there into Blanchimont, but getting the better exit, and S2Y really falling back on the Greek driver right now. Hold on a second, we've got a car into the wall there. We've got a car that's gone very right, and that's Mirko DK, who's had a major incident in Blanchimont, and behind that's going to cause cars to come together as we see Bax looking for the move versus Rebels here, but Rebels holds on, and Mirko DK with damage on the car into the pit. That is a shock pit stop, and for Mirko I think that might be 2 stops now, because this is a very early pit stop. We'll have to wait and see, but he can't fuel that car up to go to the end as they make their way down, unless he's going to do ultimate fuel saving in the rest of the race right now, heavy fuel saving and then some, but we can see it is absolute upset because of Mirko DK making that one error. He's dropped down, and Bax chasing after Rebels as Marco puts the pressure on, and Marco is ahead of Seidel for the time being. But let's take a look back at what happened to our driver here if we can. So this was only moments ago, and I suspect he's experienced snap oversteer on the exit of Blanchimont here. So as he was making his way out towards the corner here, not seeing anything on entry, but he's carried a lot of momentum there, and I think the car's just gone. Yep, it's gone to the AstroTurf, and the rear has snapped into the wall, and that was damage to the engine and also the rear axle. And Mirko DK's race just going to tatters right now. As we can see, Momo meanwhile leading and continuing to lead here. Our top 3 really spaced out from the rest of the field and from each other, as we see then Kuba under pressure from Bart. The 2 Polish drivers here doing a very nice job of just running this nose-to-tail situation, as if Simo in P6 right now, well, he's having to hold on for the time being as much as he possibly can as he makes his way through X. He's trying to catch up to the battle for P4, but it's a long way away. Rebels in P7, he's still ahead of Bax, and as they make their way in towards what is Puon corner for the 4th time of asking, you can see now how they're all starting to really calm down here. But again, note how Seidel has fallen behind Kigiro, and that was, again, we are hearing from our trackside marshals that happened in towards Lake Com, and that's simply these two fuel saving off of one another and changing places as part of the fuel saving strategy. Now, as they make their way through campus here, will we see anybody start to fall out of line? I doubt it because of how early in the race it is. Nobody's going to push too hard, as meanwhile our race leader continues to push on. And then further back, Kuba here, he's got a nice gap of a second now to Bart 43. They make their way out of what is Stablo 2 and head up towards what is the run into Blanchimont here, nice and smooth, and behind them we've got the continuous pack of cars here, and it's Honey Rebels at the head of it. But you can see we have got 6 cars nose to tail here in the long run through Blanchimont up towards bus stop, and they do not want to fight one another too hard, because right now they are 9 seconds off the leader. But Bax very close here, and he looks to the inside for a move, but I think this is as much to defend against Marco as it is to go for the move on Rebels. I think they're all trying to work together, but Marco is sticking his nose in there and saying, well, I don't mind being towards the front of this pack, and as a result the Mexican moves up to P8, as we can see behind now Kigiro in P9, and Bax for that disastrous run through bus stop falling down. And look at what Seidel's doing. Seidel is trying to get on the inside there. You know who Seidel wants to work with. He wants to work with Kigiro as much as possible, and that's why he's gone for that move into La Source. It was a risky move because he came so tight to the apex there, but look at that, he's made it into P10 as Seidel, and as a result he's now tucked in behind the driver we're riding on board with, Gt3 Rs here, as they make their way over the brow of the hill. The Frenchman and the Italian are working together here, and you can see that Seidel wanted to still be there, although there's a time penalty there for Kigiro as he crosses the Kimmel straight line there. And we can see more time penalties coming in for drivers exploiting track limits at Rouge and Radion, and as they make their way into Lake Com, this will affect their races to an extent as Seidel closes up as much as possible under braking. But meanwhile, our race leader is being reeled in a little bit right now. Zabanero starting to close up is the Greek driver. But again, we've seen this before, and it was the case. They seem to close up in sectors 1 and 2, but sector 3 is where Momo really opens that gap. And S2Y still 1.6 seconds back on our P2 man. As we see Kuba and Bart here making their way through Ix for the 5th time of asking right now. Nice and smooth, the pair of them. And then Ipsimo's at risk of being reeled into the battle to P7 here. He's in that P6 position at the moment, and the Italian driver needs to keep it firm as Rebels has got Mark over the back of him. And we can see that in that hunt for what is P7 right now, it is the case that Greco and Bax, P12 and P11 respectively, have fallen out of it and now in their own little partnership here. Can they make this partnership work? That will be the big question, as we see Bax there getting quite wide coming out of Pool and Corner. Now, meanwhile, P13 man, he made that pit stop, he put all the fuel in, and I think it's for what Mirko DK, he's just got to simply try and save as much fuel now and get himself back in the race after repairing the car as well. But he is 52 seconds off our leader. This is not good viewing for Mirko DK. As meanwhile, Momo making his way around through what is the run to Blanchimont, starting to lose some time versus Habanero and S2Y here. Perhaps he needs to save a bit extra fuel. Perhaps he's realised he's pushed a little too hard or had a rough lap, or perhaps the tyres are starting to enter a comfortable phase. Could be a number of factors here, but we can definitely see Zabanero here. The Greek driver's had a difficult night at the races, 2 P11s and a P12. He is starting to creep back in. This could be a good result for him as they all make their way through bus stop and head on to another lap. And then we can see that battle for P7 here. Marco, Rebels, Gigiro, Seidel all together, and I think the 2 Honey drivers and also Gigiro will work together as we see Marco's had a poor run out of the bus stop chicane. On to lap 6 they go. They're almost at the halfway point, expecting the undercut pit stops to occur at the end of this lap as we see Marco defends the inside here, and he's really trying to hold on to that position right now as the Mexican. He does not want to let anybody through, but look at Gigiro and also Rebels. They try to go either side of him as they make their way down, and as they come along here we can see Seidel just tucked in behind. No change for the time being, but as Marco makes his way up the hill, you can see all 4 of these drivers so close together and all driving on the limit of what is possible in their 911 cars. And as they make their way down towards what is turn 6, then up towards Lake Comet turn 7, down the Kimmel straight they go, all of them fuel saving off of the back of one another right now. We see Gigiro make a change. He doesn't make the swap here with either of the drivers, either the Honey drivers I should point out, but Rebels does go for the move here. He looks for it versus Marco, and this is costing them time and time again as they make their way through turn number 9 right now. You can see Marco parking it on every apex here. He does not want to let these guys through. He's simply trying to hold on to that position here and take a lead position, and Gigiro now trying to make a move in versus Rebels, but he can't find it there, and this is costing them major time. This is really opening up the opportunity for the leaders to retain the lead when these guys pit. As we see Momo here losing out versus Habanero, he is being reeled in by the Greek driver, and behind S2Y is falling back from the pair of them. But let's take a look at the fuel quickly, and with regards to our race leader, well, he's on approximately 27%. Meanwhile, Habanero has been using more fuel recently to close up. He's on 23, and then we have got S2Y on 27. Kuba on critical fuel, so Kuba is going to be coming in at the end of this lap and then to put in the full fuel tank here. And then we've got Bart 43 who gets, oh goodness me, Bart just collecting the car there, but Bart has been doing a lot of fuel saving. He's on about 30%, and then we've got Ipsimo on 35% as a minimum there, the Italian doing a great job. And then we can see behind Marco on about that 28%. We've got Rebels, Gigiro, and also Seidel there on a huge amount of fuel. Seidel on almost 50% fuel, that's about 47%. Oh goodness me, and Greco getting it wrong, and he's lost it. Greco has lost it coming out of Stablo 2, and it's into the wall, and that's a disaster for the Belgian. As meanwhile our race leaders come into the bus stop chicane, and we see Momo into the pits once again early as S2Ys, and Kuba has to come into the pits. He hasn't got any fuel left. Meanwhile we've got Bart there going through. He's out of fuel, is Kuba, and then we've got more drivers trying to go for the undercut here. As we can see, our battle for what was P7, it's now the battle for P4. They all stay out there together, trying to go as long as possible in their fuel tanks. But that is a disaster for Greco, and let's find out what happened. So riding on board here with Greco, does the car simply just go a bit wide? So he goes into Stablo 2. He's got on the power a little too soon. That's going to run onto the AstroTurf. The left wheels have clipped into the AstroTurf. They've dug in, and the car has given way, and that is very unfortunate for Greco, who was doing well up to that point. But right now we look at our race leader Zavanero here, who's been using a bit more fuel, but I think he'll be very happy with the fact he's got the race lead and he has got some time on circuit to himself to put in some side laps. As we see Bart here pressing on, and Sim in P3, Marco in P4 for the time being. He's got Rebels, Seidel and Giro behind him, and then we've got Momo who's just come out the pits in P8. Now Momo has put in almost a full tank of fuel, I should say, and we can see that S2Y has come back out behind him, and the gap between these two has actually opened up a small amount from what was about 2 seconds to 2.7 seconds, 2.8. So Momo's had a very good pit stop versus S2Y, and now they make the way down onto the Kemmel Straight. Will S2Y be able to close up? We can see Kuba here has come out further back, what the fact he had to take the extra fuel. And then we've got Mirko DK, who having had to pit early, he's closed up, but remember Mirko DK will have to be running about a second a lap slower than is optimal in order to be able to save the fuel to go to the end of the race. Can the Italian make it? That's the big question. Back's in P12, and then Greco has come out the pits last place right now. Out of our 13 drivers who started, all still 13 running, and Greco with that mistake into the wall, it has cost him dearly. But right now, Zavanero there cutting a bit too high on the entry to Stavlo 1, but he is continuing to press on, and we see Bart is it was Simo, and then we have got Marco here in P4 as behind. Look at Rebels and Seidel changing places here. The two Honey drivers costing one another time, and they're still side by side through the run of Stavlo 2, and they need to work this one out as we see Gigiro going around. There's contact, and Gigiro just holds on. We're almost being put into a pit maneuver there by Gigiro. Wasn't it by Rebels? It wasn't intentional, but I think Rebels and Seidel miscommunicating there in terms of who was going to be ahead of whom as they made their way through the second Stavlo corner, and that has cost both of them a massive amount of time because Marco has pulled 2 seconds on them. Zavanero's into the pits from what was the race lead, and meanwhile Bart's coming in as well. Everybody's going to be coming into the pits here. Ipsimo as well as he makes his way in. Marco, well, the driver we've got to look at right now is Momo, of course, who was the first driver to pit. Now where will Momo come as we see Seidel with 33% fuel remaining there on your timing screen in that P7 position, and Gigiro, interestingly, has stayed out for another lap. The Italian is going to do an 8-lap opening stint and then what is 5 on his final stint. This is a gamble, but if this works, this will give him the freshest tyres of anyone at the end of the race, and you can imagine the Italian will go charging as we see Momo has just come across that timing line, but where will he come out in relation to everyone? We're waiting to see how they all start to come out the pits. Momo's going up into La Source right now, and as he makes his way into the corner, let's wait and see. Momo comes out in P2, he's just made it around, but we've got drivers starting to come out of the pit lane here. We see S2Y, Zabanero comes out in P4, Bar in P5, and then it's Seidel in P6, so they're battling further down the field between Seidel, between the other Frenchman of what was at the time Rebels, and also Marco, and Gigiro has cost them dearly. Momo has retaken what is effectively the lead when Gigiro pits, and he's gifted himself a gap over S2Y, and Zabanero right now will want to catch up to S2Y. He will feel he can do it on those fresher tyres, but will S2Y be too much to bring down? The gap is 1.8 seconds, 1.7 in fact, as they go through Lacombe, and it oscillates back out to 1.8, 1.9. But right now Zabanero will need to do everything he can to close down, otherwise he's going to lose out on that chance of the race win, if not the P2 at least, as they make their way down the hill in towards turn number 10. But meanwhile for Seidel right now, well, he's gained time on a lot of drives because of the fact that he took on less fuel in the pits, because he'd done so much fuel saving on his opening stint, but this has not worked out as magically as his opening stint in race number 2. In the first feature race he jumped all the way out through the field. This time Seidel finding himself in a horrendous battle that's cost him so much time, and now he's got to try and find a way to simply eke his way onto the podium in terms of outright pace. He will still come away with great points tonight, but this will not be the way he wanted tonight to end, I can assure you of that. As meanwhile Ipsimo here making his way through Porn in P7 right now in a little bit of a no man's land, and then you've got Kuba in P8 who's under pressure from Marco, and look, Rebels there under pressure from what is Mirko DK. DK trying to really go on the offensive here is the Italian driver, as Rebels takes the inside into the second part of campus. He holds the position, and GTPL's backs there is right behind as well, as Gigiro comes into the pits on the race lead. As we expected, he had to come in because that car was running out of fuel, but an 8-lap stint on that opening stint, it means the Italian is going to be very, very fast, we'd expect, on the final stint. As we see, it's the case that Marco versus Kuba. Marco has got the place of a Kuba in the run down towards Blanchimont right now. A good move there. as they make the way into Blanchimont corner right now. And you can see both drivers very stable on entry there. The rear end barely sliding, as we see behind Mirko versus what is Rebels there. They're still battling, but Mirko losing the momentum in the run down towards the bus stop chicane. And Momo, as he makes his way then to Lost Source, we believe he'll retake the lead. But where is Gigiro going to come out in all of this? Where will the Italian emerge? Will he emerge behind the battling pack, or will he come out amongst the leaders here? We'll wait and see as Momo comes out there. And I think for Gigiro, he's going to come out really far back. Let's just wait and see as he makes his way out of the pit. Where has he emerged? He's emerged in P7, and that's not too bad for Gigiro. He's come out ahead of what is there, I believe, if Simo or William. Simo's going to go, well, sorry, that's Marco, my apologies. Marco goes to move and holds onto the P7. So as a result, Gigiro's actually lost out here in terms of going on, because he has got the traffic ahead of him of Marco, and they're all battling for position. Do remember that right now. Gigiro will have the freshest of tyres, but he's also got Kuba here, who's putting him under pressure, and Kuba's going to go for a move. Surely Kuba's got to go for a move here, because if not, he's going to let Gigiro take the place. He's not. He's going to go for it. He's going for it on the inside. Here is Kuba. Gigiro will have the inside into 8, and I think he can defend it well. But Kuba's going to come back into turn 9. There's going to be a little bit of door-to-door. As they make their way through the corner, you can see Rebels now trying to catch up versus Kuba here and go down the inside, as Kuba looks the inside in versus Gigiro into with turn number 10, but Kuba going up onto the grass there. I think he felt that he was inconvenienced and pushed up onto the grass and not given room. I'd say Gigiro would argue back to him. There was never room there, as Rebels is trying to find his way through past the KRT driver right now, and it is getting a little bit scrappy between these guys, as Kuba's definitely trying to find places to pass, but I don't think the space is there to do it, as they make their way down into the left-hander of Pouon corner, and we can see Rebels really trying to find a way through it. He's doing everything he can, but Kuba say no, and it looks like Rebels is going to go for it on the exit of Pouon here, downhill in towards campus, but you can see Kuba having the better momentum out the corner, and he holds on for the time being, as behind them we can see that it's Bax who's lost out to Mirko. Mirko under pressure from Bax though, as he tries to come back. And meanwhile, our race leader, Momo, he's holding on to that lead right now of 2.3 seconds. S2 White chasing after him, and Zabanero losing the pace to the leaders, and Bart's inching ever closer to him. So Bart starting to gain in the hunt for the podium here. Can he potentially bring this one home? We can see Seidel as well. It's closed up in P5 right now, but Seidel really be one of our fastest drivers here, who gained through the pit stop window. Everybody else really lost out in the faster drivers category. So as a result, it's a case we are going to see a much more different podium this time around, we suspect. We've got 4 more laps to go, so say it's not so. Anything can happen with 4 laps remaining at Spa-Francorchamps, but it is looking very strong right now for our leader, and I think Seidel will be battling. If we make our predictions right now, he'll be battling for P3 on the penultimate lap, and then I think he's not going to be able to close down P2 on the final lap. We will wait and see as he makes his way out of La Source and heads up towards the Rouge and Radion. Meanwhile, however, as we look a bit further back, Marco has got himself away from Gigiro for the time being. Gigiro in that P8 position, still really struggling to catch up, as Kuba and Bax are in P9 and P10 now. Now, what has happened to Rebels? Let's take a look back. Rebels has lost a huge amount of time here. Well, it looks as though something's happened into bar stocks. You can see Rebels has really fallen back there. I'm not sure what's happened. We didn't catch it on camera. But what I can tell you is the 2 Polish drivers of Bax versus Kuba are trading places and battling in the run down the Kimmel Straight here towards Les Combes. And let's just stay with them briefly. Their teammates, of course, they're not going to want to do anything silly here and cost one another time as they make their way down into Les Combes, and they both stay in formation for the time being. But I wonder how long it'll be before one of them wants to be the faster driver of the 2, as we see Mirko DK over the back of Rebels here as they make their way through turn number 9. As they come down towards turn number 10 here, it is the case that Mirko DK just cannot find a way through for the time being. And remember, he is critical on fuel as well. He's got to fuel save at every opportunity he can. To give you an idea, he has only got 25% fuel left. To do 4 laps on that fuel is going to be very, very heavy on fuel. So I do not think Mirko DK can chase after the guys ahead unless he goes for another pit stop. But even then, that will take him out of the race. But meanwhile, S2Y in P2, chasing after Momo. That gap is not coming down the way the Polish driver would like it. It's staying stagnant or going up a little bit. As meanwhile, Seidel has made the move versus Bart. We didn't catch on camera, ladies and gentlemen, but Seidel is up into P4, and now he's attacking Zabanero here. We're going to stay with Seidel for the time being, as Zabanero tries to hold off the fast-charging Frenchman here. The last lap was the fastest lap of the race, as set by Seidel at 2:32.006, and he has got a 5.5 second gap to close down our leader right now. Will he be able to do it? That will be the question. He's already beaten our prediction. He's going to have Zabanero come the next lap, but then he will still have about a 4-second gap to close down on the leader, and he will only have 3 laps to do it, or 2.5 laps. We'll wait and see as Zabanero here goes defensive into bus stop. Seidel tries to go all the way around the outside here. He takes the full track limits, and as they make their way through, Zabanero's caught on the outside into the second part of the chicane, and Seidel gets the inside here, but it's all about momentum coming out the corner, and Seidel has got it done, we believe, as he crosses the line. 3 more laps to go, but Zabanero might try and come back at him here into La Source, but he doesn't in the end. I think the Greek driver recognises, just stay consistent, stay smooth, bring home a top 5 in this one, and now Zabanero has got to hold off Bart, who's chasing after him. Seidel, meanwhile, he's got 3.2 seconds to close up to S2Y from Team Banana Racing, and then it's Momo a further 2 seconds up the road. As we see, meanwhile, Seidel versus Zabanero. Zabanero getting closer here over the crest of the hill, but he's gone a little bit wide there on exit, and I think Zabanero has lost the momentum. He wanted to go for the move down the Kimmel Straight versus Seidel for P3. But meanwhile, further back, Marco versus Gigiro here. Gigiro on those fresher tyres. He's looking for a way through, but the Mexican goes to the racing line. Gigiro looks to the inside here. I think it's going to be a standard pass, or will it, as Marco goes a little bit deep onto the grass there, but he just about collects the car into the corner, and Gigiro just cannot find a way through, or can he, as he looks at the switchback there, but Marco covers it off. He parks it on apex at turn 9, and you can see Gigiro gets the momentum. Marco not able to shut the door completely, and Gigiro on the inside now. Marco tries to close the door, but Gigiro comes through on the inside here, and he's made the move for peace. And a nice move from the Italian, but also greater defensive driving from the Mexican. These two proving their credentials as they make their way through the left-hander of what is X, and now head down towards what is Puon corner once again, charging all the way down the hill now. Coming into the left-hander here of Puon, and then making their way through to what is turn 13-14. The campus chicane lies ahead. But meanwhile, looking from them back to our race leader, 2.5 seconds is the gap still to S2Y. Seidel not closing up enough this time around, as we can see Honey Seidel having to hold off Zabanero, and Bart all over the back of Zabanero. And I think Seidel has actually had a really poor run out of the last few corners, because you can see he's under increasing pressure here as we ride on board with the Frenchman as he comes through what is turn number 16, and as he makes his way now through the corner and heads up towards Blanchimont, you can see Zabanero losing out there, and the Greek driver now has to look in the rear view mirror versus the Polishman of Bart 43 as they try to make their way through. Now, will Zabanero be able to hold on here and put some more pressure on Seidel? Seidel really starting to struggle, it would seem, on this lap, and I think at this point, as we look, they go into the corner, and Zabanero's coming with way too much momentum there, but he's been able to stop the car. Zabanero did get the car stopped just about with a little bit of contact there, and he's gone for it as Zabanero, but Bart now is going to come through, and my goodness, did Zabanero come from a long way back, but the Greek did get it stopped just about. A little bit of contact there, but you can see as they make their way up into La Source, Zabanero having to defend the inside versus Bart. Bart trying to find his way through, but Seidel really struggling to get the pace out of the corners. I think for Seidel, it's just gone a little bit too far on that car. I do not think he's, just got the grip remaining. As they make their way up into Rouge and Radion here, you see Zabanero getting the better run and trying to go around the outside, but not able to back it out. And Seidel really just doing everything he needs to right now to stay in that position in P3, but he can't get any closer to S2Y and Momo, and you can see that Zabanero right now under that pressure from Bart, but look at the pace that Zabanero is showing. He's doing a great job to hold on and really trying to make it his worth to stay in the top 5, as if Simo is now closing up to this battle for P3, as is Gigiro here and Marco as well. They're all gradually closing up. Meanwhile, Bax in P9, where he's got a 4.5 second gap to Kubra in P10, and then we've got Rebels in P11 and Greco after that instant down P12. As we see, it's a case that Mirko DK has come into the pits to take on the fuel to finish the race. Unfortunate for Mirko DK, but we did predict that may happen, as we see our race leaders right now separated by 2.5 seconds, and then you've got the mass pack chasing after Seidel in P3 here as they make their way down towards Puon corner. We see Zabanero going for the inside versus Seidel, and he gets it done here. Zabanero back up into P3. That HKRT driver really wants to hold on to that podium position. He is doing everything he can to come home on the podium right now, and this is a brilliant effort from the Greek. Can he do it, however? That is the big question. Will the Hellenic Racing Team driver be able to do it as he makes his way down, the Hellenic Knights Racing Team driver I should say, as he makes his way down towards Stavlo 1 and 2, and as he comes through the corners here we can see a little bit of a high rise on the apex curve there of turn 15, as he comes through. Stavlo 2 now, he'll want to nail this. He goes a little bit wide off apex there, but he just carries enough momentum. I think he's safe for the time being as Seidel misses out in the run out the corner, and they make their way up towards Blanchimont. But as they come around right now, it's only one more lap to go, and we can see Seidel under pressure from Bart. Bart all over the back of the Frenchman, it's the Polish driver, as they make their way out of Blanchimont here and head up towards bus stop. Gigiro goes wide there on corner exit. That may be a track limits penalty as they all come to that braking zone. Bart looks to the inside here versus Seidel. Seidel shuts the door. Bart's not close enough to force the move in, and as a result, Samo and also Gigiro both closing up now, and we have got effectively 5-6 cars hunting down P3 as they go on to their final lap. The final lap of racing tonight for Group F at Spa in round number 4 as they come down to La Source once more. Meanwhile, our race leader, I can tell you, Momo is leading by 2.3 seconds right now ahead of S2Y. S2Y 5.5 seconds ahead of Zabanero, and Zabanero is going to try and open that gap up. He's opened it to Seidel to 1.2 seconds, and I do wonder if Seidel's not got enough fuel. As we take a look at Seidel. Seidel was critical in fuel, and that's why he's been losing out so much. I do not think Seidel can make it to the end on his current pace. I think he's going to have to back off the pace here, and this could be a disaster for Seidel after what has been a phenomenal string of performances to fall at the final curtain. This would be a horror show as Bart looks to move on the inside there. He's not close enough, but if Simon has to go defensive versus Gigiro here as they make their way into Lacombe, and Gigiro tries to go back on the inside into 8, but he's not close enough or in the inside enough to be able to get the move on, and as they make their way through 9, you can see if Simo holding on with a lot of wheel spin coming out the corner there, and meanwhile for Bart, he's trying to find a way through versus Seidel, but Seidel literally defending this one to the very end and fuel saving as he goes here. Remember, Seidel does not have nearly as much fuel as the guys around him as they make their way through X corner for the 13th time of asking, and this is so critical in terms of Bart right now. He needs to find a way through because Seidel will literally kill the pace out of their race if he can save fuel to the very end. We will wait to see, however. This has given Zabanero the ability to just gradually hold that gap to these guys behind and manage the car to the very end as they all make their way downhill. And meanwhile, the battle for the race leader, I can tell you that Momo right now has let that gap come down to about 1.9 seconds, but I think he's just managing the gap. He hasn't made any major errors. He's just taking it nice and gently for each corner, and that's all Momo's got to do, just balance the car, keep it safe right now as we see behind it Ipsimo versus Gigiro into Stavlo 1, and as the camera pans around, Gigiro was on the inside there versus Ipsimo, and Simo's tried to hold on. He's held it for now as the Italian driver versus his fellow countryman as they make their way out to Stavlo 2 and they charge up towards Blanchimont corner here. It's going to be a drag race all the way up towards Blanchimont, and you can see Seidel having to hold on at the head of your picture as they make their way through the corner here. But I can tell you one thing, as they make their way through here, one driver who's driven this brilliantly from start to finish, whilst it wasn't the perfect night overall, Momo will be happy with the fact that he brings home the win in the final race of Group F of round 4, a winning race number 4 ahead of S2Y from BR, and Zabanero holds on in the end to come home in P3 on the podium. Bart 43 in P4, Seidel finishes P5, ahead of Gigiro in P6, Marco P7, Ipsimo in P8, Bax in P9, Kuba in P10 in the end, although Kuba I think is going to run out of fuel here on the line, or is he? No, he's not run out of fuel, he's burning a penalty. Rebels in P11, and then Rebels ran out of fuel at the very end there. What a very classic race and also a dramatic one. The fuel was such a big concern for all of our drivers. It's going to be Greco who comes home in the end in P12 after a difficult race with that incident coming out of Stavlo 2, and then last but not least it will be Mirko DK who unfortunately, after hitting the wall on lap 3 and damaging the engine of the car coming out of this corner out of Blanchimont, riding along the inside wall. It was the case for the Italian that he's had to make 2 stops in the end. He couldn't make the fuel saving last, but he will come to the end. I think there's more damage to that car. That car does not look happy. In fact, what's happened there, that is a very odd speeding car to the finish line, but he's going to cross that finish line very shortly. But congratulations to all of our drivers as we see Mirko DK has retired, but to our race winner, Momo 87 from Belgium representing Team RTA. Well, brilliant racing through and through, ladies and gentlemen. All 4 races absolutely fantastic and ending on a massive high. And look at that podium, a completely changed podium with Momo 87 in the end, bringing home the win. All these race results being subject to any stewards' inquiries, of course. S2Y from BR coming home in P2, and Zabanero, the Greek driver from HKRT, bringing home a night's best of P3. Bart 43 in P4 ahead of Honey Seidel, running out of fuel at the very end in P5. Gigiro in P6, Marco P7, Ipsimo in P8, Bax in P9, Kuba in P10, Rebels in P11, Greco in P12, and of course we had the retirement at the very end there, but he will be classified for making over 75% of the race distance of what was Mirko DK, and then we had, of course, the retirement going into the race of the Mexican driver of what was Rules from GTMX. The fastest lap, Gigiro 79 from GTD on lap 10 at 2:31.158. But that brings to a conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, round 4 for Group F, and be sure to come back tomorrow a little bit earlier in the day for what will be the Group C set of races for round number 4. I'll be bringing you those in the English language, but until then, brilliant racing from all of our drivers. Thank you very much for tuning in. I have been Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.